Mhm.
Good afternoon, Chuck. Good afternoon, Craig. Can you hear me? Everything good?
Yep. Yeah, we hear you.
So Will is not going to be here for the first half of the meeting. He has other priorities he has to attend. So I will be here for the first half, and then I will drop out, and his profile will take over. And then, you can direct all his questions to, so for the second half of the meeting, all the questions will go to him as usual. But for the first half, I'll be here.
Okay, great. Thanks.
All right. And do you guys need anything before you start the meeting?
We have enough people here. I think we did Craig's here. Craig unmuted.
Yes, I'm unmuted.
Very good. Do we have a quorum? Yes, Rita, did you have your hand up for something? Yeah, can we unmute Rita before we start? Yeah, go ahead, Rita.
Hi, I'd like to thank this committee. You really do a lot of important work. However, our meetings are endless. And I'd like to suggest that when you call on people that they have no more than 2 questions and they can come around a second time. Of course, many of us sit here because that other person who has 10 questions has already asked the question that I've been sitting. That's number 1. So limited to 2 questions and then come back around. And also, as people are talking, that a 2-minute to 3-minute time limit would be preferable, or else these meetings go on endlessly. And what happens is that the items at the bottom of the agenda get short shrift because people are tired. So those are just 2 suggestions. 2 questions per person and 2 to 3 minutes per person who are speaking, so we can get this done in reasonable fashion. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. I mean, I appreciate that, and I guess I've been co-chair of this committee for a while. I won't go into how long, but it's always been, we try to have a good discussion at the committee, and we try not to, but we can try to limit people in certain ways. I don't know that we want to have a hard and fast rule, but I'll try and make sure people do that. But I think we, try to keep to the subject and move things along, and we try to do that. But I understand what you're saying, but I don't want to take up too much time with housekeeping stuff, because I think with Kevin, what Will usually does is when people want to speak, they should go to the reactions, and where you have the raised hand, then you should raise your hand, and we'll call on you. Everyone's going to be muted except for Craig and me, and we'll call on people as we see their hands, and we hear from the public before we hear from the committee, and we'll try to. And I think, bearing Rita's admonition in mind, that we should try to keep our remarks focused if we can, and remember that there are other people who want to speak, and so we can have a good discussion, but not too much going on and on. And anyway, why don't we call the meeting to order? This is the July meeting of the Transportation Committee
Yeah.
and Committee Board 8. And I'm Chuck Warren, the co-chair, and Craig Lader is my fellow co-chair. And why don't we get started and we'll get into the
Excuse me.
first.
Yeah, before we get started, we should have Kevin do his introduction, which I don't believe he's done yet, correct?
Sure, I
I
can
don't
do that.
Can you do your introduction then, Kevin?
Sure, give me 1 second. Welcome. If this is your first time joining us virtually, you will notice that you are currently muted and everyone will remain muted throughout the meeting, except for the committee co-chairs, Chuck and Craig, and any presenters as we move through the agenda. Following the presentations, the co-chairs will call on members of the public wishing to speak. You can participate by going to the reactions icon on your device and pressing the raise hand button, not the wave or thumbs up, as those will disappear. Only press it once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down. If you are calling on the phone, it is *9 to raise hand and *6 to unmute. Be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once the co-chairs call on you. The chat is available for technical support only to help with Zoom software problems, not to ask questions of the co-chairs. They will not see the chats. If you're using an older version of Zoom, you will need to go to the participants section where you will find the raise hand feature there. Please do not raise your actual hand or wave at the screen because we may not be able to see you. Chat me, I'm here for support. Thank you.
Okay, why don't we get started then? The item and item number 1 that we have on our agenda here is discussion of the proposed Dakota Street furniture bus shelter locations along Madison Avenue, and it's joint with the Landmarks Committee. And it's proposed we have 6 different locations here. And it's Madison Avenue between 59th and 60th Street, Madison and 63rd Street, Madison Avenue between 65th and 66th Street, Madison Avenue between 69th and 70th Street, and then another Madison Avenue between 69th and 70th, and then Madison Avenue and 71st Street. First, do we have anybody here from the Department of Transportation who's able to speak on this issue? Do you know, Kevin, is there anyone here? No.
So Colleen from the Department of Transportation is here.
Yeah, I know. I guess Colleen's here, but I don't know if Colleen is able. I appreciate the fact that she's there. Is Colleen able to speak on this issue with any specificity? Colleen?
Hey, Chuck, it's Colleen. So those locations have been identified from our franchise and concession division. And we've had conversation with CB8 and now with the Madison Avenue bid about those locations. I know that there have been conversations about, not wanting to have these particular shelters on Madison. And I don't, our policy is that we're going to move forward with installing the shelters. That's from what I know. I don't know if anyone is here from the bid. I don't know if Matt Bauer is here.
Yeah.
He is.
Hey, Matt.
Matt can elaborate a bit more about, the bid's perspective on this.
Okay. And there's nobody here from J.C. Cadeau, who's here particularly? The
I don't
franchise.
know if the board invited anyone from J.C. Deco.
Okay. All right. Why don't we go forward and let's hear from the public. Who I don't see any hands yet raised, but Matt Bauer, let's start with Matt from Madison Avenue Bid, who's always a welcome guest and has been a frequent guest.
Thank you very much, and hi Colleen as well. And no, I appreciate you putting this on the agenda. I should say that these locations were approved a few weeks ago by the city's Franchise and Concession Review Committee. We only found out about it when it hit the Franchise and Concession Review Committee. It actually had already gone before the Public Design Commission and other bodies of city government. which weren't aware. But you know, we did testify at the FCRC, and that was a continuation of what our own opposition was in 2019 when we, you know, brought this up. We found rumors of this happening in 2019, and just to reiterate, the, you know, community board passed a resolution on September 18th, 2019, looking at asking for different locations, and stated that the bus shelters would distort the area's reputation as a world-class business district, and that the bus shelters are large, intrusive, and create bottlenecks on already limited sidewalk space. That was actually in the CB8 resolution. And just so quickly, you know, we've been on record opposing these for years and years now, and I just want to say how narrow Madison Avenue is. It's so narrow that the existing bus shelters that you find around New York City wouldn't fit on it. So they had to create a specially designed bus shelter, narrower than the rest. And that actually went before the Public Design Commission and was approved. But we're just going to ask, since this is a joint committee of landmarks, that this design go before the Landmarks Preservation Commission, because these most of these locations are that you mentioned are in the Upper East Side Historic District, at least the ones north of 61st Street. But there's sort of two more points I just want to bring up before the board to make sure you guys were aware. Also, I should say that the narrowest, that when the bus shelters are installed, they'll have less than 8 feet of clearance on the sidewalk, and sidewalk cafes, open storefronts, all of these type of businesses have to maintain 8 feet of clearance. The bus shelters on Madison will not have 8 feet of clearance; they'll have less. And I know that the city and FCRC already received lots of letters from our businesses saying that it's going to block storefronts, diminish business, create, you know, an environment that won't be is conducive here on the Avenue to Business, and that the fact that there's going to be advertising on the bus shelters in front of our stores will really create an environment that you know, there'll be advertising by other businesses in front of existing businesses. But I wanted to point out, though, regarding the advertising. And I think we walked back in 2019, we brought up the point that it wasn't fair that businesses in our neighborhood are not allowed to have illuminated signage. And it was brought up, well, that, you know, and this would have, and it was brought up at that point that, well, you know, zoning doesn't, which governs the signage regulations in the city, doesn't affect street furniture. And we did some research, and we presented this at the Franchise and Concession Review Committee. And I just want to let you know that since the very inception of the franchise program, bus shelter advertising was explicitly tied to the zoning regulations of property adjacent to where the bus shelters were located. In the EAS prepared in 1996, it said that electronic media would be permitted only on a case-by-case basis, and except for the backlighting of printed posters, they'll be subject to the applicable zoning regulations for the site. In the City Planning Commission report in 1996, it said that that approved the RFP for the franchise agreement, that backlit printed media are allowed in all locations, but the intent of the proposed RFP is to ensure that electronically animated media are permitted only on a case-by-case basis and only in zoning districts where the zoning districts allows them. The City Council resolution in 2003 said that approved the franchise going forward, that the DOT shall develop citing criteria for the franchise structures that include permitted uses on adjacent zoning lots. The DOT's RFP in 2004 said that electronic media will only be permitted on a case-by-case basis, and except for backlighting of printed posters, will be subject to the applicable zoning regulations for property adjacent to the site. The franchise agreement that's in place right now, and which will be in place when the new shelters go on, also says specifically that electronic media will be permitted on a case-by-case basis, and except for backlighting of printed posters, will be subject, except otherwise permitted by the city, to the applicable zoning regulations for property adjacent to the site, and be subject to all applicable approvals by city agencies. Madison Avenue is zone C53 and C51, and specifically electronic media flashing signs are not permitted in our district. So the question, I think, is that will the shelters that were approved by the FCRC include just posters, or will include video advertising, which is what I think, by looking at what was presented at the Public Design Commission, is what it will include.
How can it do that? Let's hear from Colleen. It's subject to the local zoning, which doesn't permit that. So how can it do that? Colleen? Where's Colleen? Can you answer that, Colleen? I think she's there, but well, okay.
Just
I mean,
one
if they can't do anything if that's against the zoning, Matt, so they, it seems to me that's not something that can go forward.
It seems that way to me.
The kind of advertising I'm talking about, not the show.
Yeah, I mean, backlit posters would be permitted. So in other words, like a stationary poster,
I got it.
but not the video advertising. So that, because the whole point of this is to generate lots of, the advertising. And one more thing I just want to mention before I go, because I know the question of time, is that in the new franchise agreement that was just approved at the FCRC, it includes a section 2.5.3.3b, which says that after the Schedule Y bus shelters are installed, and Schedule Y bus shelters are the ones that are producing lots of revenue that would be used for the rest of the program. It says that the company, which is Station Co, may request to construct, install, and maintain at the company's sole cost and expense additional Schedule Y bus shelters, which the DOT may authorize if the company has provided reasonable evidence, such as proposed Schedule Y bus shelter would be high revenue, would serve transit riders, and is technically feasible. So my point here is that though there are just a few that are listed, originally there were going to be more on Madison, and they were supposed to be bus shelters as well on Fifth Avenue by Central Park. The question is, since those are not going to be there, it seems based upon this section of the agreement that they could keep on coming back without having to go before the community board, or just that DOT could sort of approve it without any changes to the franchise agreement. So just want to bring that up in terms of this might not be the only group that will be coming. This is just what's coming before the end of the year, or by the beginning of the year. So that's my 2 cents. I'm glad to answer more questions.
Good.
Thank you.
Let's see if other members of the public. I see Andrew Fine. And
Thanks, Chuck. Just my 2 cents. First of all, nobody wants any of these LED lit video displays anywhere. They're incredibly bright, distracting, and really kind of cheap in the neighborhood. We have Times Square. We don't need Times Square everywhere. We don't need it on Madison Avenue. However, we do need bus shelters on East 86th Street. And I've been asking for years. And my last response from DOT, I think, was probably about 1.5 years ago when I gave up, that they didn't have a contract in place for any more bus shelters. So if Madison Avenue doesn't want them, we have a few sites on 86th Street between 2nd and 3rd and Lex that are plenty wide and could use bus shelters. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
any other members of the public? I don't see any at this point. Kevin, do you see anybody that I'm not seeing? No, it doesn't look like it. Okay. So let's go to the board. Michelle Birnbaum first.
Yeah, thank you, Chuck. I'd like to make a resolution to disapprove this proposal and speak to it if anybody seconds that.
Okay.
Hey, Rita seconded it.
Okay.
I tossed around in my mind whether I should make a motion to disapprove or to table. But table was too risky since I don't know how quickly they're moving along here. But look, with all due respect to the DOT, Colleen just comes to tell us what information is going on there. So I'm not, it's not her fault. But as has happened before, the DOT proposes things that the community board is not necessarily in favor with. This issue had a lot of discussion, and there was a lot of discussion about the size of the street, the width of the street, about the stores that had close proximity to the sites whose advertising and signage would be blocked. And there was a lot of opposition to this. And I'm sure the powers that be heard that loud and clear. In addition, it's insulting that DECO did not come here to present a plan, to present materials, to present dimensions. They didn't give us the courtesy of either showing up. So I'm even loath to even discuss this, but I think it's more prudent to have a resolution in opposition, especially since if more are coming down the pike, the precedent set without us, whether or not we approve or disapprove that they're proceeding with additional locations, is very disheartening. So I would urge my fellow board members to vote in opposition to this. There's a lot of tree and foliage cover on Madison Avenue. It is a historic district. There are doorways to stand in the need of a downpour. But this is solely a revenue generating thing. It's more selling the streets. I can point to 100 instances as the day goes by as to where the agencies of this city just made decisions which purely were based on revenue. I understand we need money, but let's be more prudent about who we give money to and the programs that we support. And let's be cautious about preserving our streets, denying visual blight, and upholding the views of the community. I urge you to vote in opposition and support my resolution. Thank you.
I should just point out that the last time we had a discussion of this in our committee, there were people from the public who said they want a bus shelter there because older people who, and when it's sunny and under conditions where it's raining, and they like the idea of having bus shelters.
That may be, Chuck, but they're
I'm
not here
sure.
tonight. And if they were, we would listen to them. But in the meantime, I'm reflecting the view of the vote of the community board and many in our community who supported it.
I also just want to clarify that, yes, the community board did pass this resolution. That was not a resolution that came out of transportation. It was a small business committee resolution.
That was yes, they took it upon themselves to pass this, to bring this resolution before the board right at that time. And there are transportation issues here. And I see Leah from the public wants to say something, so go ahead, Leah.
Okay, I apologize for interrupting, but can you perhaps move closer to the microphone? Some people have been trouble hearing you.
Hearing me again? Okay. Is that better? Can you hear me?
That is a little better.
All right. Okay. Sorry. For
Yes,
some reason-
hi. I don't know a whole lot about this issue, and I understand that the bright moving pictures on some of these bus shelters are really annoying. I can understand why people don't want them, but I personally find that there is a great need for bus shelters on Madison Avenue. Several years ago, during an ice storm, I was trying to take an express bus up to the Bronx to a hospital, and there's half dozen of us in this driving, sleeting ice storm. We're standing against a building trying to shelter. And because we weren't standing at the sidewalk, the bus went right, that goes once an hour, went right past us all because we weren't standing at the curb, because we were trying to stand against the building. So there really is a need for shelters. I don't want there to be horrible signs, but please don't say that there isn't a need for shelters, because there really is. Thanks.
Okay, the Lita Camp, I guess, is next.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Craig. And thank you, Matt Bauer. First of all, there's a difference between bus shelters with these electronic signs and bus shelters without the electronic signs. There is a reason that the Small Business Committee took that up several years ago. It affects small businesses. It will affect small businesses on Madison Avenue, as we've heard about. Why should a small store have a Gucci advertisement in front of it if it is not Gucci itself? That's an issue. These distracting signs, the cheapness of those kinds of images with one of the most expensive shopping streets or high-end shopping streets in the world is something that will diminish the value of that street. If businesses there close up because of these kinds of advertising, that will affect not only the tax base, but the quality of life in the city. There's a difference between 3rd Avenue or 86th Street and Madison Avenue and 5th Avenue. And I urge everyone to consider that historic districts, that this is something that is a feather in the well-feathered cap of New York to have Madison Avenue the way it is, and that should be something that's respected, understanding that it draws tourists, it draws residents from the tri-state area and around the country, and it's something that has value. JCDecaux has this kind of advertising all over the world, I understand, and they don't have these kinds of electronic images all over the world. They actually respect the nature of the community in which their signage is located in places other than New York City, where it seems that this visual blight is something that's acceptable, and it shouldn't be acceptable just because they feel like doing it. It's something that will impact Madison Avenue. So I urge support of Michelle's resolution. Bus shelters, whether they have, and the width of the sidewalk is certainly something to be considered because of the crowds. And I understand that there may be a need for bus shelters, but it's also not the kind of heavily trafficked bus stops most of the time that you'd find on 86th Street or 59th Street or 3rd Avenue. The commuting takes place south of 59th Street. North of 59th Street in the historic district are people who are shopping and browsing and dining out, going to the museums. They're exactly the kinds of people that you want to be attracted by the visual beauty of the street and the history of the street, and not overwhelmed by these enormous moving images. So I'll stop there, but I urge support of Michelle's resolution. Thank you.
Well, I think we can all agree we don't want those flashing signs, and that's a separate issue, at least in my view. Michael Allen next, I believe, from the public. You gonna meet him? Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for hosting and for hearing us out. I would agree with what's been said in opposition to the bus shelters, but I think that as a matter of, policy and of being, consistent within our sort of panoply of government agencies, the businesses in this district, in this historic district, are held to very high standards by both zoning and landmarks. We are not free to do that, what we would wish to do necessarily with our properties, in our storefronts, with our advertising, etc. We should at least demand that the bus shelters be held to the same standard. That's pretty much my position, is that it's we don't want them. Surely we don't want them, but if they must be there, they must be held to the same standards by both zoning and landmarks that we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Rita Popper, I think, is next. Go ahead, Rita.
Call the question.
Is there a second for that? Seeing the second right now, we only have, let's hear from Valerie. Valerie, or you had your hand up. Do you want to speak? Yeah,
I think Michelle seconded. She put her thumb up.
I
No.
didn't see, I didn't see.
I did, but it's okay. Let Valerie speak. And after she speaks, I will have seconded to call the question.
Thank you, appreciate that. First, I had a question. Can somebody tell me what the expected revenue from these bus shelters would be? Does anybody know?
Valerie, it's Colleen. I mean, I don't know what the exact figures would be, but I can tell you, I can get that information and I can share that with the board.
Well, I mean, okay. I mean, is there a separate line item anywhere that shows revenue from bus shelters and advertisements on bus shelters?
I wouldn't be able to answer that question because I'm not part of that conversation with the agency. So I don't have that information.
Okay, well,
Valerie, can I just say that there's a franchise agreement which spells that out. We have and we got sent the latest version of it, but it refers back to sections in the original version, and we don't have that, and that specifies what the revenue is. And the only thing I'll mention when I looked at, because I was looking for what you were looking at, and I saw that some of our bus shelters had like an AA sign on it, and it said if you had that sign, that meant there'd be a revenue adjustment of $342,000. So that means there's plenty of revenue coming from those bus shelters in our area, if that could be an adjustment. But I don't know the actual figures because we did not have that agreement in front of us, and no one is here from, Colleen doesn't know, obviously, and no one's here from DOT who knows. And I guess I'm not sure who we invited or if we actually invited them to come. And since Will's not here yet, I don't know if Kevin, if you know anything about that.
okay. Well, I mean, for me, I have to tell you, I'm not going to be voting in favor of any more revenue producing items that are going to be placed on the sidewalk for the MTA or New York City Transit until we have some transparency about how much money they're making and where it's going. And the other point I just want to make is the bus shelters that they're talking about are antiquated bus shelters. If you travel around the world, there are much better bus shelters that are integrated with systems, etc. In New York City, the greatest city in the world, should not be putting up bus shelters that were used 20 and 30 years ago. Somebody should undertake a real project and put together a bus shelter that makes sense. And until then, I'm going to vote no on any new bus shelters, whether they're in the historic district or anywhere else. Thank you.
Okay, I guess the question's been called, so we'll vote on that. If people are in favor of this, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, let me just read the roll if you don't mind.
Read the roll, sir, please.
Okay, myself, Chuck, Alita, Elizabeth Ashby, John McClement, Juno, Lori, Michelle, Paul, Rita, Stephanie, Valerie. If I missed anyone from Community Board 8, please raise your hands.
Okay, if you want to vote no.
Oh, Rebecca Dangor, I think I missed her as well.
Yeah, Rebecca's here. If you
Point
want
of information, can we repeat the resolution?
Yes, the
Yeah,
resolution is simply Community Board 8
Disapprove.
opposes
Right.
or disapproves the proposed locations of bus shelters on Madison Avenue.
If you are in favor, you don't have to do anything. If you want to vote no, abstain, or not voting for cause, please raise your hand. I raise my hand. I'm voting no. Next, Rebecca Dangor. Can we unmute Rebecca?
Sorry, another point of information. Does it reference the signs?
No,
Specific?
well, we could have some language in whereas.
Okay, well, I ignore my hand.
Okay, Paul Crickler,
No.
okay.
And I am a no.
Any other hand? Lori Bora,
Hi, sorry about that. I'm going to abstain.
okay. Is there anyone else who hasn't voted or wants to register a vote? Okay. You don't see anyone? Okay, I'm assuming that passes.
Yes, 9 yes, 3 no, 1 abstention.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Let's go to the next item is a request by Durama Tours doing business as The Ride for a sightseeing bus stop on Fifth Avenue between 83rd and 84th Street. And then this is a requested. No, that's yeah, go ahead. And do we have someone here from Durama who wants to talk about this? I guess we don't. What we can try. Why don't we just pass this by and see? Kevin, do we know where is Kevin? He's here.
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry, I was muted.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Mr. Falkowitz. Okay, sorry. You were.
Good afternoon.
Okay. Why don't you tell us what you're going to do and how it's going to work, and we can discuss things. Go ahead.
Sure. Good afternoon. First of all, thank you for the opportunity. So we brought off, there was a bus company called Experience the Ride. That's basically, in a short version, a moving theater. It uses a bus that has performance inside the bus. They drive through the cities. There's different stops throughout the city. This is one of the routes, actually a short stop with like 5 stops of the day. It's not a lot. It's about a 5-minute stop picking up, very little interruption. And this is, like I said, this is like the smallest schedule, the least schedule from all our schedules. Our bus picks up at 42nd Street and 8th Avenue. It would drive to all the way to Central Park. It drives around North Central Park. It comes down 5th Avenue and it makes a stop at the stop requested. And then it would continue on back to 42nd Street. The bus drives about 5 to 10 miles an hour. It's a very slow, normal drive, very safe. People just are on the bus, and there are certain performance more in Midtown Manhattan that it, when the bus drives, the entertainment part explains the entertainment, and it kind of clicks for the bus. It's like an interesting version. I don't know if you guys ever saw it. It's like a big black bus. So we assumed this company a few months ago, and this has all been existing bus stops. We're just, since we are a new company that bought it off, DOT is basically making us go through all the applications again and all the community boards again. But it's nothing new to this business. It's been there. And we have, I think, a tremendous safe record. We've never been involved in anything, and we don't interrupt the city. There was never, we're as clean as they come.
Okay, and the only stop is between 83rd and 84th on 5th, right? And it's where the existing stop for this company that's no longer doing it is what? You're taking their place, essentially, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
There are multiple stops through the city, but not in this district.
No, I understand. I'm only talking about area. You have other stops, sure.
Correct.
So it looks like from the street view, the sign is up basically at the corner of 83rd Street, and it says Experience the Ride New York LLC, but it's actually, the sign itself says that it is 5th Avenue and 84th. That is the one we're talking about, right?
That is correct. It's actually on 5th Avenue, right? Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public here? I don't see anyone in the public. So Michelle has her hand up.
There
Yeah,
is a there's
so
someone from the public, I'm
Oh, I
sorry.
see. Wait a minute, before, hold that if you will. I see Maggie Lehman from the public is here. Yeah. Why don't we unmute Maggie?
Thank you. I have a question for the DOT. Does this particular issue and the various other times where we've seen other sightseeing bus companies request stops at other places in the city, does the city keep track of both the number of sightseeing bus companies in the city, as well as the number of different stops that these buses make throughout the city? I have a concern. The last one that I had called into that was brought before us, before the CB8, was on, I think, 59th Street and 5th Avenue. I have a concern that our streets have become so clogged at this point, and will be even more so with the start of the congestion policy, that before CB8 would approve additional stops, and the DOT for that matter, that we get some sense of how many hundreds, if not more, stops there are throughout, and is there some kind of limit or cap on them? Thanks.
Colleen, we can't hear you. You have to unmute yourself. Does anyone, I can't hear Colleen. Does anyone hear?
I don't know that Colleen is here to respond to it.
No, she's here. She's here, but we're not hearing
I've
her.
stepped away. I meant.
Okay. Maggie, I think here in this case, it's taking the place of a company that was already there. It's not adding any additional, it's not an additional company here. So,
Okay, Colleen's back. If she. And Colleen, you're muted now. Oh,
something's wrong, I guess, with
yeah,
her.
I think she's saying something that she's
It's
unable.
just- She's unable to respond.
Yeah, I see that.
So maybe she can come and fix it and come back. Let's go to Michelle then.
yeah, thanks, Kevin. So I know on some of the stops on this ride, there is actual entertainment in the street where the bus stops. Some of it is narration and entertainment on the bus, but some is actually at the stop. Are you anticipating or planning street entertainment at the place at this bus stop?
No. So not only to this bus stop, several other bus stops we eliminated entertainment. Entertainment basically what we have right now, and we had this with the Midtown stops. As we took the entertainment, and basically they do entertainment on the corner, and as soon as the driver gets to the traffic light, the entertainment stops. And in this particular stop, we won't be having any entertainment at all.
Kevin, unmute Michelle. Go ahead, Michelle. Yeah, no.
Yeah, as a matter of policy, until the discussion is over for that moment, we should be unmuted. But at any rate, then what is the purpose of the stop? Will there be narration on the bus about the location? What is the reason for it?
So the reason is basically Fifth Avenue. So it comes down Fifth Avenue, and we do have a stop to pick up passengers or to drop off passengers in mid of the run. It's not about entertainment, it's the area. The area reflects that, they talk a lot about the area, but that particular part of Manhattan, there isn't any extra entertainment inside, outside the bus. It's more about talking about the area of the bus for this particular run. Now we get back into Midtown, that's a lot more entertainment, a lot more for that matter. But as this far as this part of the run, it's more about the area.
Thank you, but that implies to me that you're planning to use this as a pickup spot.
That is correct. So we have a few pickup times and we have a drop off time. That is correct.
And a drop off here as well, pickup and drop off.
Yes, it's basically it's a pickup and a drop off in the same time.
So in the past, how many people do you usually have? How many times a day? How often? Is this 5 minutes? You said about 5 minutes. Is that 5 minutes of every hour?
No. So it's actually there's 5 runs for this stop. There's basically, I'm looking at the schedule. There's 12:40, 1:40, 3:10, 7:10, and 8:45 p.m. That includes the drop off and the pickups. And
so in that 5 minutes, you're having drop off and pickup
at the same time, because he's in the middle of the route. They start off the 42nd. So while they're driving down by, they would do a drop off and a pickup. And there's very limited people compared to your other stops.
Do you have any stats as to how many people you do? Does this run 7 days a week, by the way? How many days a week?
6 days a week.
With the exception of which day?
Tuesdays.
It doesn't run Tuesdays. And it runs, you said, from 12:40 in the afternoon? Was that your first?
Correct.
Well, it starts earlier downtown, but by the time you do the loop and come here, 12:40 until about 9:40 is about
8:45.
Sorry, 8:45. And how many people in general do you anticipate you will be picking up and dropping off at this spot?
I would say most of 10 to 20, because the majority of our groups get on to 42nd and 8th, which that's the beginning of the run, and they come back to that area. So the majority of people, it's a very small amount of people that come on and off of that stop.
Well, I have to tell you, thank you very much for being here and for being forthcoming. But Fifth Avenue and 83rd, 84th Street is a residential spot, with the exception of the museum, which has its own congregation of people on some of the days where it's there late. Others, people just sit on the steps, whatever they do. I can't say that I would be particularly happy with a general pickup 10, 20 people 4 or 5 times a day, 6 days a week. I think that will really add to the congestion in that spot. I can't say I'm enthusiastic about this. So thank you very much.
Hi, it's Colleen. I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes, now we can.
Okay, fantastic. Going back to the question about the inner city buses and the sightseeing buses, we do keep track of all of those that we have approved, and it's on our DOT's website. I can share that link with Kevin in the morning. And you can see which operators are in your district.
Okay, Alita Camp.
Thank you. Colleen, maybe could you just say if there were other operators at that stop? And also I have a question for the gentleman from the bus company, which is, can people get on the bus for the first stop there? Will there be hawkers passing out pamphlets and trying to lure people onto the bus? Because whenever I'm at Times Square, I'm besieged by people trying to get me to join all of those various tour buses. The same thing down by the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island buses. And that just adds to a lot of congestion and a lot of annoyance for me personally. That's not your issue, but I'm just wondering about all of the pedestrians, and it's quite a heavy area because of the museum and all of the other vehicles, including bikes that use the road. So those are my 2 questions. Thank you.
Kyle, you want to go first, or should I respond first?
So why don't you, in the letter, I believe it mentioned if this is a stop by itself or if it's shared.
It is shared with Top View Sightseeing according to the letter. Although the letter does say that the stop is closer to 84th Street, but then also says that it is the existing stop, which if you look on Street View is pretty much at 83rd Street. So there is that inconsistency in the letter. But if it's the existing stop, then it is co-signed with Top View Sightseeing.
Then I have another question. Oh, I'm sorry, Colleen.
That's correct, Craig.
Well, I have another question then, which is there any coordination of times between the two stops at those bus companies? Because there could be overlapping, and the street already has buses coming from the Bronx. It has tour buses from other places that are dropping people off at the museum, school groups, taxi cabs, bikes, motorcycles, cars, Ubers, all of that. It is really, really congested there. And if there's overlapping with those two tour buses and one is sitting there for longer and the bus has no place to go, that to me sounds like it's problematic. So I would ask about that. Thank you.
So with many of these requests that we get, and if it is a shared stop, we review the schedules to make sure that they don't overlap. In this case, the schedules with Durham and the other companies do not overlap.
How much time is there between the two companies, the two buses coming?
You know, I want to say it's maybe 15 minutes in between.
So it sounds like there's just an endless stream of buses all day long.
I don't know. Again, I don't know what the other schedules are for the other companies, but I know for a fact that when we do allow these with these stops, it's not an endless round of buses that come to pick up and drop off. It's pretty much, you know, intermittent.
Also on that block, there is a sign that just says generic charter bus. Is that, I assume that is what's creating most of the congestion, because those are the tour groups that are coming in and dropping people off, and they don't need to have permission to use that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's correct.
So I just want to respond to a few things. First of all, Colleen is absolutely right. Our buses do not run on the same schedule as Top View. I don't ever crash with Top View. That's number one. Number two, in regards to pamphlets, giving out pamphlets, we don't even do that at our main stop at 42nd and 8th. I don't ever do that on 84. And this is something that I share with this committee, that I'm annoyed as well when I go through the city and everyone's trying to push it up. So I get that. We don't do that. We don't list that part on none of our stops, and especially the 5th and 84th.
Well, will you have people there though, urging pedestrians to join the tour?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So we do have we have a different setup than a lot of tour operators. Even by our main stop, 42nd, and you know the more midtown, we just have people checking in. Just have one or two people just checking the people. We don't ask, we don't solicit. That's not our role. We don't do it over there. We don't do it at none of our stops. And like I said, especially this stop. This is like the stop that has the least amount of traffic, the least amount of passengers, and the least amount of stops. So the answer is no.
Is it one of the double-decker open air buses? Is that what these are?
No, this is actually a big black bus, and it's built like a movie theater. You sit to the side as a.
You're looking out at the sidewalks when you're going by?
That is correct, yes. Yes.
Those are pretty, okay, well, I'll refrain, but those seem, I've seen them. They're really interesting to look at, and I'm sure they seem the same. They seem kind of large for the amount of people in there, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'll stop.
It's actually not longer than the other buses, just built tall, and it looks as the appearance, and the windows are all big, so they can see out and have a clear view, so like a theater view. And
right,
it's sideways, and there's actually the entire bus versus a double-decker bus. The entire bus, the capacity of that bus is about 42 people in general. So
okay, thank you.
Sure.
Next is Lori Boras. Lori?
Yes, thank you, Chuck. I have, my concern is environmental. And so I have two questions. One is, are your buses, I assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that your buses are the standard, you know, gasoline driven motors, right? They're not, I'm sorry, right?
Diesel motors.
Oh, they're diesel.
All buses are diesel.
Okay, that's even worse. And then the other question is, when you know that there's like a 3-minute rule that you cannot, keep it idling for more than 3 minutes. It sounds to me like if you've got 40 people getting on and off a bus, or whatever amount you have on and off a bus. So the question is, do they turn off the engine when they stop, or do they abide by the 3-minute rule, or whatever? Go ahead.
So it's actually a very interesting question, because every CB meeting this comes up. So here's the thing: all buses run on diesel, and we all have to apply by the rules.
Yeah, excuse me, but that's not true. I mean, there are gas powered, not gas powered. There are electric powered buses, like city buses. I've seen
only the MTA. I apologize. Only MTA. No charter buses or double decker has
okay.
As of yet.
All right. Okay.
So,
go ahead.
Right. So, and the MTA has a limit to that, but so the buses are diesel, and we have a 3-minute rule. So there's an exemption to that rule. When buses load, while they're loading on and off, passengers get on and off, they are allowed to idle. When the bus stops, and this is not applicable to the stop, because our buses are not designed to stop over here to offload and to wait for another run. They just do a quick pickup and drop off and continue. So if, in any case, if there would be stationary there, which it's not applicable, they would shut off after 3 minutes, and our bus is designed, once the bus is stopped, after 3 minutes, if it's on a low idle, the bus will turn off. But in any case, when the bus is there dropping and picking up passengers while they're loading, they're exempt and they're allowed to ride to idle. That's a city exemption.
Okay, thank you for answering that question. And the other thing is, do you have any plans to change to a more environmentally friendly fuel for your buses?
When it's available. These buses are not available in the coach bus world yet. They're talking about it, it's not available yet. No.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Let's hear from Kathy Brady. Still has her hand up here. Member of the public.
Hello. I am a resident of East 72nd Street at 2nd Avenue, and I'm a citizen. I guess I have a right to speak. I just want to point out, and I'm sure you know it, that the 86th Street bus stops at 84th and 5th Avenue. There's a lot going on there. You people, you fine citizens, and I thank you for your work. You know this as much as I do, but there is a lot that goes on at 84th and 5th. Thank you. The end.
Valerie Mason, next.
Hi, good evening. Lori asked a lot of the questions that I was going to ask, but I want to focus. I'm still confused. Are you getting your own bus stop, or will you be sharing it?
I believe it's a shared bus. This was existing shared bus stop with Experience the Ride.
Okay, because the letter, as Craig says, is a little bit unclear. But okay, in that respect, how long does it take your route to go from start to finish?
This route takes about an hour.
An hour, okay. Okay, and it would go through the congestion pricing zone, is that correct?
Yeah, that's all different. Yes, I believe so.
Okay, and what do you charge per passenger to get on the bus?
So there is, I don't have the price read. I believe it varies from 55. It's from 55, I think, to 75, depending if it's front row or back row. There's different prices.
And you said the bus was black. Does that mean there's no advertisements on the outside of the bus?
Just says the ride.
Okay, all right, because the jitney has those huge advertisements that go over, but doesn't impact the ability of people to look in and out. So I was curious about that. Okay, so Colleen, who makes the contract with the bus company for the routes? Who's the contracting entity? Oh, she's.
So the bus company is the one that proposes their routes. We review their routes and they determine the feasible location where they can pick up and drop off.
Okay, and how much does the city charge for the right to use the bus stop?
You know what? I think there's a permit fee And it's close to, I want to say it might be, I'm not sure what the exact figure is. I think it's close to like 3,000 or so.
So for $3,000 a year for 5 stops a day, 6 days a week, it's $3,000 a year, Mr. Falkowitz, is that accurate?
Just about right, yeah. Mhm.
Wow, that's pretty cheap.
It's not when the bus has to do multiple stops. And
Well, I mean, you know, you're making $75, you're
we were
charging,
not making.
well, I stopped myself. You're charging a lot of money for
We
this.
don't know the revenue of that. If the,
Okay.
I wish it would be that way always.
Okay.
The buses are
Well,
not always full. The buses don't travel that.
Okay, I get it.
Passengers, it's a whole different discussion.
I think that you can tell I'm very revenue oriented tonight. So I want to know who is getting the $3,000, Colleen?
So that money goes back to the city, Valerie, and I can get you the exact amount. I can give you the exact layout of what the cost is and what the city charges in terms of the usage for these stops.
Okay. Well, apparently somebody else used to use the stop. Did they go out of business because they weren't making enough money? Are they still a tour operator, but just not using that shared stop anymore?
I don't know what the reason is for the other company to go out of business. I don't have that information. I don't know what it is. It could be multiple reasons why they went out of business.
Well, Mr. Falkowitz, I have to tell you, I think your timing is very bad for me because I am not going to vote for any more bus stops for $3,000 a year. And when the city and state of New York are going to ask people who live in this borough to pay to use their own streets. So I'm sorry, but I'm going to vote no. Thank you.
So just to respond, a quick response for that. We're not the one who makes the prices for the city. That's number one. Number two is this is not an adding bus stop. This is an existing stop that we're just taking over a stop that was an existing stop for the same.
Right. And I'm not going to be in favor of anybody taking over an existing stop to make a for-profit enterprise for $3,000 a year. Just not going to do it. When the state and city of New York are asking people who are paying a lot of taxes to pay more money to traverse their own streets and to just sort of augment what Lori said, these buses are clogging up our streets. If you want to reduce congestion and you want to reduce pollution, and it takes all that time to go through the city streets, then I can't be in favor of this. It's environmentally seems to be, questionable, as well as from a revenue perspective. And I appreciate your coming tonight, and I'm sorry, but I'm not going to vote in favor of it. Thank you.
I'd just like to point out that New York City has about 50 million people a year who visit, and it's one of the lifebloods of the city. And I think part of the reasons they do are because there's certain amenities you can tour around. If you wouldn't have people, I assume, who would do this if they couldn't think it's worthwhile doing. So I'm sure
Well, Chuck, I don't disagree with that, but Mr. Falkowitz is charging $75 a head, and he's running, we can all do the math. It's 5 to 6 times a day. He's not the only bus company. And people who live in the city complain all the time about these sightseeing buses clogging up the streets. And if we're interested, and I understand that it's a revenue producer for New York, but to be honest with you, $3,000 a year for the right to do that, it's just too cheap. We're giving away our public access too cheaply, and it's got to stop. Thanks.
I don't want to sound controversial, but you believe we pay our share of taxes to the highest amount. We pay from every single side. There's tax on every side in the bus company. It's not only $3,000.
Let's hear from some. Paul Crickler hasn't spoken on this issue. I know the hands I see up had so far.
Thank you, Chuck. Yes, I would like to say something here. I do understand the point that previous speakers made, and I agree with it about the city should be maximizing revenue. But I do think, focus our attention on what this meeting is about. This gentleman's come in here to talk to us about a bus stop. And I think a different venue would be very appropriate to talk about trying to get the city to maximize revenue. I think we're taking it out on this guy. He's come here for an approval. We shouldn't be holding him hostage to what we think about, what the city charges and doesn't charge. So I'd like to be fair to this gentleman who's come to this community board. So I'll be voting in favor, but I would encourage others to try and treat this a different way.
Haven't had any motion yet on this, but I thank you, Paul. All right, anyone else here? Okay, I guess we'll go back to Michelle.
Yeah, Mr. Falkowitz said that this could be a starting point. It's not just a stop, but people can get on and off so that they could be starting their tour here. So if there's no extra personnel around the bus, how are you selling the tickets?
The tickets are all sold, pre-sold online. They're not sold at the bus.
At no time.
At no time. You cannot walk over to the bus and buy a ticket. They're all pre-sold online.
Okay, that's what I want to clarify.
Right. And it's not so much about a starting point, it's actually a midpoint, getting on and off at a midpoint versus our starting point is for the second and eighth, but they'll get off at a midpoint though.
But it can be a starting point.
Yeah, if the passenger chooses to get on at that point, correct, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Well,
Alita?
A quick question. Is this bus company asking for an exemption or deduction from any congestion pricing fee?
no, not at all.
Okay, thank you. And you don't intend to?
I don't think the city is going to give us anything anyway. We had there was a big committee meeting last week for buses from New York City. Doesn't look like the city is going to give us anything anyway. So.
Okay, just wanted to know. Thank you.
Rita Hopper?
I'm sorry?
No, I'm calling on Rita Hopper. She had her hand up.
Let's bring this to a close. I make a motion to approve Mr. Falkowitz's
Application. Okay, is there a second for that? Yes, second, Nelson?
I'll second it.
Okay, great. All right, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of this
Sorry,
application?
let me take the
Take the roll. Yeah, take the roll.
All right, so I see myself, Chuck, Rita, Abraham, Alita, John McClelland, Juno, Lori, Michelle, Mrs. Brown, Paul, Rebecca Dangor, Stephanie, and Valerie.
Okay, if you're in favor, you don't have to do anything, and if you want to vote no, abstain, or not voting for cause, raise your hand. Okay, Valerie?
So many buttons to press. No, thank you.
Okay, Michelle?
No.
Juno?
No.
Anyone else? Okay. And I think it's passed. And thank you, Mr. Falco. This will come up at our full board meeting, which is 2 weeks from today. It's Wednesday, 2 weeks from today. Okay, next.
I thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Next is a request by the Surrey Hotel to extend their hotel loading zone on East 76th Street between Madison and Fifth Avenues by 50 feet to cover the entire frontage of the hotel. It's now at this point 48 feet long. And they want to extend another 50 feet to make it 98 feet long to cover the extent of the frontage of the hotel. And is there anyone here from the Surrey Hotel to talk about this? I assume there is.
So this is Brian Cook. I'm with Capolino. It's good to see many of you
okay.
again.
Sure.
Kevin Williams is here, as well as Trevor, if you want to put up your hand.
Okay. Is that, okay, Trevor, right? Okay. Well, why don't you go ahead, Brian, if you want to lead off and others.
Well, I will, just introduce Trevor, who is represents ownership for the hotel, and Kevin, who can speak to some of the traffic concerns. And I'm here in case there are questions about outreach or any other issues that may arise.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, thanks, Brian. My name is Trevor Stahelski. I'm the local developer for the Rubin Brothers, who are the owner of the Surrey Hotel. We are well underway. In case any of you haven't been by the site, we are probably nearing 50% complete on the renovations, and hope to be open in the towards the end of the first quarter of next year. The Surrey Hotel, as you may know, operated with a very small hotel loading zone. It was about the length of maybe two cars, plus the first area of drop off. And we, as the new owners and representing the hotel operator and Casa Tua, the food and beverage operator, all of whom your community board has met and helped bless. Thank you all for your attention to this project. Help bless our liquor license, and have been very supportive to the project. But we feel that the loading zone is just too small for a hotel of this size. I can't speak to how the Denahans ran it and how successful they were or were not, but to us and to a 5-star hotel, this is just not big enough. So we were hoping, with your approval, to proceed with an application at DOT to extend the zone from approximately 48 feet to the length of our property, which is 100 feet. We have a consulting engineer. Sorry, not to say we haven't studied this. Our consulting engineer is here and on board. We've done a full-blown traffic study. We understand what we're asking for and have the study to back it up. I think I would turn it over to Kevin to see if he can speak to some of the finer points.
Sure. Kevin Williams, principal in charge of urban planning, environmental planning for GZA. And may I share my screen? I think I can just capture this very easily by, so actually just a minor correction. It's actually about 28 to 30 feet we're seeking to extend. And actually the easiest graphic here is if you take a look at this, and I recommended the extension of the loading zone because basically the area that we're looking to extend can accommodate one vehicle, and then we're basically running into council diplomat signed area. So in terms of really providing, as part of New York City, hotels are allowed to request a hotel loading zone covering their lot frontage. And here, when you kind of look at the odd amount of signage that's present, you have this strange gap. And I reviewed the historical operations of the previous Surrey and felt that it could absolutely benefit keeping, a clear thoroughfare for passenger cars to go through the street without obstructing traffic. And really the story is sort of told. So I went back to 2021 before construction was done. And here, you can, oops, sorry, let me go back to that. I'm trying to minimize some things on my screen here.
While Brian's doing that, we're trying to minimize traffic by avoiding the moments of deliveries and pickups on a one-way street with really one clear lane of traffic. The more lane we have to pull over to for our deliveries and pickups, the easier we'll be on traffic on the street.
Yeah, absolutely. So currently, this is the area from this point to the canopy or the porte cochere. Here's the signage, and you can see basically about a single vehicle and maybe a motorcycle could park here. And then we start another signage typology down the street. So we're just looking to cover this area. And it basically amounts to the loss of one public space, and certainly simplifies the arrival and departure, not only for the hotel, but for service vehicles, and based off the traffic generation, we believe that would completely prevent any obstruction of traffic based on peak hour arrivals that we looked at.
Yeah, and show them to the east of it, right at our property line as we go towards Madison Avenue.
Yeah,
we're not asking for more than our property. There's still another parking spot or two, maybe 1.5. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, that one goes to the edge.
There to the corner. Like we're not asking for that. We're just trying to stick to the tidiness of our property.
Yeah.
Just a minute here. There was a written application which I looked at, and it talked about going to 50 feet. Now you're saying only an additional 28 feet. So what?
It actually says 48 feet.
48 feet.
And yes, so it's my error. And one of the reasons why is some of the takeoffs from the aerial photography that I had. I didn't wheel it in the field, but it appears that it's about 28 feet rather than 48 feet. So that is my error.
So it's only from where you said that car to that sign, basically?
Yeah, exactly. If you see here, the little red box, the signage starts basically at the porte cochere or the.
Need to share the screen.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. All right, let me come back to that. So in the overhead view here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this is approximately where the sign starts at this edge. And then we're running to here. And rather than 48 feet, that's about 28 to 30 feet max. The whole frontage of the site is 98 feet. So currently it's signed no standing hotel loading zone from this point to basically this point slightly left to the entryway.
So that would leave actually another in front of 18 East 76th Street, an unsigned area.
No, the sign would be posted from this point. It would be maintained 2-hour metered parking, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m.
But your no standing loading zone sign would interrupt the 2-hour parking. So you would need another sign in between the end of what you're requesting and the Diplomat parking.
It would be mounted on the same sign. Like, yes, it would be, the same sign would have it, but yes, there are multiple signs on, and actually where's the, anyway, yes, there's multiple, sorry, here. As you can see, it would basically be, the arrow would be extended in the other direction, on the same sign. So basically from this point here, if you can see in red, to number 4, that would now be the new basically alternate side of the street parking. So all we're doing is basically from here to here, and then from this point to number 4 is where council parking, sorry, from this point to 3 is where council parking. So we would basically effectively be removing one space, and we would still have one space remaining for on-street parking.
So we'd essentially have the 2-hour meter broken up by the no loading the hotel loading zone, and then the Diplomat, and then.
Which is how it is today.
Right. It's just one extra space.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, just for the record, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, you're very
We're
good.
not suggesting new zones. We're just suggesting moving the goalpost a little to the left.
Yeah, no, understood. But I just want to make sure everyone who's part of the committee and attending also understands that.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay. I think we have it.
Yeah, and just to add one last piece of color, I know 28 feet might not sound like a lot, but in New York, in an operation where we're running 100 hotel rooms and food and beverage, and it really means the world to us that we can just have a little more elbow room to move trucks and people and deliveries and whatnot in and out of this site. It's
Yeah, to give some perspective to that, Trevor, the typical truck that we would be looking at of the largest size would be a 30-foot panel van. So, you know, that extra 28 to 30 feet actually does make a lot of difference.
Anyone who's seen the old Woody Allen movie Bananas knows that 28 feet can make a lot of difference.
Great movie.
Anyhow, let's
Great movie.
get to the board here. Alita, I guess, first.
Just a quick question. So I don't know what your delivery trucks are like. We all know that UPS trucks and I guess you won't be getting from Fresh Direct, but Amazon, they don't pull up to the corner and nobody does pull up actually to the curb. And so I'd like to know what you will do about that if the delivery trucks, even though if the board approves in DOT that you get the extra space, that they will actually be at the curb and not blocking traffic.
I mean, Trevor, you can deal with that, but that is definitely one of the recommendations and requirements of the approval based off the transportation study is that there's active management of pickups and drop-offs at the curb, both passenger vehicles as well as deliveries. So, and you know, given that from a service perspective, they're having service contracts with these deliveries, you know, you can be sure they have to comply with local requirements, but that we would actually have staffed doormen that would assure that those drop-offs occur without blocking the through lane and pull up to the curb. So Trevor, I'm sorry if you want to add
Yeah,
to that.
no, I mean, that's the tip of the iceberg, right? There's a lot to unpack there with that question. If you want to talk about drop-offs as in hotel guests or restaurant guests, that's quickly managed by a doorman, right? Like, hello, here you are, open your door, close your door, car drives away. It's a pretty simple process. The deliveries will be less UPS and Amazon because this is a hotel and restaurant. It'll be more you know, food and back of house services being delivered and trash being taken away. And those are done at, you know, certain times of the day, very well programmed and thought through. I think that enhancing from 70 feet to 100 feet allows us the, you know, the length for a car to pull in or a truck to pull in and service or take away.
And I would also add, Trevor, to Alita's comment, the reason why you're seeing that is there's often not reserved curb space for those vehicles. So your FedEx or your Amazon has got a double park. They got a double
park.
corner.
It's not the double parking. It's not double parking when there are cars or other trucks at the curb. It's when there is nothing at the curb and they don't want to be blocked in or they don't want to take the time to actually park. They just take up an extra lane, whether it is on a one-way side street or on an avenue. So I'm just asking
They're more,
about
yeah,
what
they're
you
more
will
apt to, historically
or
more
do.
apt to do that. They're more apt to do that when there's less of a space for them to pull into. So this current zone is smaller and would make it harder for them to pull in. So they're more apt to double park. I think by
I understand that, but you're asking us for an approval, and I just want to make sure that there is a mechanism to ensure that other people, other taxis or ambulances or buses, school buses or people in cars will, or bikes for that matter, will not be blocked by trucks that take advantage of the extra space and double park. And if you're saying that you will have a mechanism to ensure that that is not going to happen, and maybe a dedicated person on staff to make sure and to enforce the regulations, because they don't care about the city, that's another issue. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are staff, we weren't required on this to stipulate to it the way we did with the Robin Burley project. But in this case, we would have staff, both from the members club and from the hotel, that are going to be dedicated to managing traffic. And we're happy to stipulate to that here as well. But there will be a transportation director who will manage this curb, this 100 feet of real estate, in order to manage the deliveries and the traffic of people coming and going from the hotel.
Thank you.
Rita? Popper?
I like to make a motion to approve and to speak to it.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, Paul seconds it. Go ahead, Rita.
This is a business that is bringing business to the Upper East Side. That I think that we have to give them every opportunity to conduct their business and to make sure that nobody, even in the hotel, uses that as a parking spot. That a hotel really depends upon a doorman being able to come and help people from a taxi with an umbrella when it's raining. I think that this is an absolutely worthwhile endeavor, and I wish you all the luck.
Thank you. Appreciate the support.
Okay, Michelle, move on.
Yeah, I see the need. I just have a couple of questions. This entire new frontage will be loading and unloading. Now, because you don't have any other service entrance on any of the other streets, do you? On Madison or on 70 or the block south, 70 what?
75th. Yeah.
75th. So
No,
that your garbage collection, your linen delivery, whatever is coming through this one street. You don't have anything anywhere else. So I wonder if you might not consider that the spot that's immediately in front of your front door be passenger pickup and drop off only, and that the remaining of the frontage that you are requesting tonight, that be deliveries. Otherwise, inadvertently, I think you're going to find that your delivery trucks are going to be blocking your front entrance, and maybe even the garbage truck will be. So I will ask you if you will consider that. And then I will also ask if we have an affirmative resolution that part of the whereas, that in a whereas clause, was that you warranted that you would have separate transportation management personnel out there, at all shifts, I guess. Are you asking for a time limit on this? Are you asking till 10 at night, till 11, or not at all? What are you asking?
We would like it to be 24/7.
Hotel loading zones generally are. I did want to remark on Ms. Birnbaum, forgive me for interrupting. But one of the things I did want to note is, in practice, we certainly absolutely would intend to have passengers in the area in front of the door, and then the loading area, which is the one that's closer to Madison Avenue, be accorded to the trucks and the service vehicles and that sort of thing. But you can't actually differentiate the signage type, right? There's not a truck hotel loading zone and a passenger loading zone. So this would have to be something, and it's certainly in the best interest of the Surrey to manage that traffic. But I would also note that when you have garbage pickup versus when you have sort of peak hotel guests come and go, those don't really overlap. And the same thing with particularly with the evening SLA oriented traffic, you wouldn't have service deliveries at that time as well. But I absolutely think the point that you're making to separate those uses, that's absolutely the intent, to leave an area open for the service deliveries and the trash that's near the service door that's closest to Madison Avenue, and then have the passenger and cab drop-offs at the area, basically the point where we're indicating the sort of the west side onward.
If I may say, and Colleen can clarify, I may be incorrect, but I think that there is a separate sign that says pick up, drop off. I don't think it says hotel. It may not. And then loading zone. I think it is possible to put two different signs there, but she would be the further clarification.
There's a hotel loading zone, and then you could also, you could have a no stopping zone. So, or commercial loading, but absolutely, if Colleen wants to weigh in on what the preference
is there such a thing, Colleen, to put pick up in front of the?
No, it's one sign that says no standing hotel loading zone. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Oh, you're not differentiating it. All right.
We don't differentiate up and drop off. It's just a hotel loading zone.
Yeah,
Okay.
Michelle, I think that it's a great point, but I think that's exactly where our staff and operations team come in.
Works.
And they come in and their job is to expedite that 100 feet of curb, right? It's you know, this is a peak time. We've got a lot of deliveries coming in, and that's why we want them there to sort of shuffle those trucks in and out as fast as possible.
Just in the interest of time, let me ask two more quick questions. One, you have one, I noticed towards Madison, that service entrance that will be your in out for garbage. Do you have separate carting for dry and wet carting so that they come in different times of the day? Your food disposal versus whatever packaging,
We do
dry
similar,
goods.
yeah, and similar to removing garbage, we have other systems in place, macerating, which removes all the wet the fluid from the trash, and then distributes a bag of solid waste that's about 30 to 40% of what it would be if you weren't macerating. Same with
Okay, so you have that facility within
yeah,
the hotel.
we do.
Also,
We do
can
a
you,
lot of
last question, can you tell me what the rest of the parking is on the block? After the Diplomat, as you go west, does the 2-hour meter parking resume?
Yes, hold on a second. Let me just pull up my slide because I have the exact, yeah, so the rest of both on the opposite, you have almost parallel signage on both the north and the south. So directly across from the area that is signed, the small area that is signed for Diplomat plates, headed towards the park on East 76. The rest of the lot is alternate side of the street, you know, typical New York City parking.
On the north and south sides
North
of the
and
street?
south, yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, that's good. Good.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So, Michelle, just going back to the no standing hotel loading zone sign, this allows drivers to quickly pick up and drop off passengers. And it's also allows, you know, loading and unloading.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Thank you. I was just thinking for their benefit to just keep loading passengers so that a big truck doesn't pull in and the back end of it is in their guest zone. But if it can't be, it can't be. We'll leave it to them to monitor. I'm sure they're capable.
Right, yes.
Last question, or whatever, Alita.
Thanks, Chuck. Did I mishear? Did Trevor say something about a members club?
There is a dinner club on the second floor run by Casa Tua that has I think it's about a 90-seat restaurant that has a private members club component to it. It is part of the whole project, but yes, it is a separate entity.
So a members club sounds like there's a fee and it's not open to the public. Is that the whole space or part of the space? Because to me, that's a different issue than a hotel only.
Yeah, it's a very small space. It's nothing like what's happening down the street at the Robin Burley Club. It's like I said, 90 seats. It sits on the second floor. It's totally separate from everything else that's public faced that the hotel is doing.
So it's 90 seats only for members.
Yes, it's something that Casa Tua does in some of their other locations, Miami, Aspen, and Paris. They have this a separate kind of food offering that they provide for their members.
Is there a public restaurant as well?
Absolutely. The rest of the ground floor and the rest of the hotel is all public faced. This is just one small area.
Okay, but the expanding the hotel in quotes loading zone also benefits the members who I'm sure pay a significant fee, and it makes it nicer for them.
Sure, it does. It does clear up the whole zone.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yep, sure.
Hey, I'm sorry, I might have missed this. How many rooms does the hotel have?
The hotel is now at 100 rooms.
So you have 100 rooms?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
And just so everybody knows that the hotel structurally is identical to what was there 3 years ago, and you know, got dealt the blow that COVID dealt to a lot of hotels. So, you know, the Cafe Boulud was there, very, you know, famous restaurant that was on the ground floor. So the programming is very similar.
Right.
We just think this will make it operate as an even better neighbor.
Sure.
Could
and
I
we're
just
really-
ask one more quick question? I'm just
oh.
curious about, Chuck. Is that okay? There's a beautiful, from what I understand, space in there that was an Art Deco kind of bar or something like that. Is that
It
not
is.
right? Are you preserving that or restoring
mean,
it in some way?
You're right in saying it was beautiful. Unfortunately, when you undergo a renovation to the magnitude that we had to do to reposition it, and it included, all the wonderful things we're doing for landmarks and preservation, it had to do with a full retrofit on all the mechanical systems, for all new windows. Unfortunately, we were not able to keep any of the interiors. It's been 100% gut renovation.
Oh, that hurts.
It was very, very expensive. But thinking towards the next 100 years, we're trying to do it right this time and let it last for a long time.
Right. I think we talked about this, so that's enough. We're ready to vote. You want Craig talk, see if we have who we have still around?
Yes, so it's myself, Chuck, Alita, John McClement, Juno, Lori, Michelle, Mrs. Brown, Paul, Rebecca Dangor, Rita, Stephanie, and Valerie.
Yeah. Right, if you're in favor, you don't have to do anything. If you want to vote no, abstaining, or not voting for cause, raise your hand. None, I think that passes unanimously.
Passes unanimously, 13-0.
Okay,
Actually,
thank
just
you.
have one quick question, for Colleen, I guess, more than anyone else. If I'm understanding the proposal correctly, it's going to result in the parking meter within the loading zone. Is that an issue, that it's going to be not within the actual pay zone, or?
Not to us. Not to us. I mean, I know you're saying it's sitting within the maybe 10, 15 feet of the west side of the property line. To us, that's on the sidewalk. It's not interrupting our business. We wouldn't ask anyone to go through whatever it takes to move one of those.
No, I don't expect that. I just wanted to see if that's an issue with DOT, or if they would need to do anything about it. So I guess it's more a question for Colleen.
So, Craig, we would have to, once we get that request or the resolution from the community board, we'll take a look at that, we'll evaluate it, and we'll see what changes we need to make, if there's any.
Okay.
Great.
This resolution will be taken up 2 weeks from today at the full board meeting. We'll see the schedule and posted. And that, I think that will actually be an in-person meeting for the most part, as we're going to that. And so thank you.
Great. No, thank you. Thanks everyone on the community board for your support. Again, we really appreciate it.
All right. Next item is item 4, a revocable consent application to construct, maintain, and use 3 electrical sockets together with electrical conduits at 112 East 75th Street for Temple Israel. There's someone here for Temple Israel. Do we have anybody? Can you raise their hand so we know who they are? Okay. Can we unmute the jealous? For some reason, we're not hearing you. There you go. I think now you can try that. Maybe it has to do with what your those
Maybe if you
earphones-
unplug your headphones,
Yeah,
sometimes.
unplug your headphones. I think that's right.
I don't know that we hear him.
No,
Yes, now we hear you.
Go ahead.
All right, sorry, my all day using the headphones and finally gave out on me, but my apologies. Vigelis Sophias with Heartland Engineering, a principal of the firm. We prepared the revocable consent application for 3 electrical sockets to be located within 3 tree pits in the sidewalk. Those 3 tree pits are being enlarged per New York City Parks Department requirements. The electrical sockets and a plan has been submitted to Parks for their review and approval. They have reviewed and approved our proposed plan. We are here in front of you to discuss this. And if there are any questions regarding our application, be glad to answer any questions.
And Michelle?
Yeah, thanks. When I saw and printed this agenda, this item was not on the agenda. So I don't know when it was added, but do you have any visuals and will you tell us the location? I don't have any of that on my agenda. Where are you putting this and how many tree pits?
112 East 75th Street.
Sorry, Chuck, you're fading in and out.
112 East 75th Street.
Oh, okay. And that's how many tree pits? So you have a visual, good.
Yeah.
Okay,
yes,
that's what I
yes.
was asking for. Okay.
Yeah, so this is, yes, let's start from here. So the location of it is on East 75th Street in between Park Avenue and Lexington Avenue on the south side of the 75th Street. This is the existing building that's being renovated. This is right here is 1, 2, 3 existing trees that are gonna remain. The existing tree pits will be enlarged, and within these tree pits, we are proposing to install 1 electrical outlet in each of these tree pits. The plan that we have here that we submitted to New York City DOT Revocable Consent Unit is indicating in red 1 conduit, 1 2-inch conduit that goes from the building to each expanded tree pit. So this is, I'm drawing that in so that is the tree pit that's being enlarged. And this is the electrical socket that's being installed at each of these tree pits.
And running underground into the building?
That is correct.
And so any maintenance of it, if it goes bad or whatever, you can handle from inside the building? You don't have to dig up the sidewalk, I hope?
Yes, absolutely. The main, the panels, the controls for it is all inside the site. So there will be nothing, no disruption to the sidewalk.
And you're doing this for attractive lighting, maybe holiday celebrations, something like that?
Yes, that is the primary use of it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any other questions here? Let's see. Okay. Can we have a motion on this?
Move
Rita?
to approve.
Oh, okay. Is there a second? Read a second. Okay. All right. Why don't we take a vote? You need to take attendance again? Craig?
Yeah, I haven't checked to see if anyone dropped off from the last time.
Okay.
Okay, myself, Chuck, Alita, John McClement, Juno, Lori, Michelle, Mrs. Brown, Paul, Rebecca Dangor, Rita, Russell, so we did have an addition, Stephanie and Valerie.
Okay. All right, so if you're in favor of this, you don't have to do anything. If you want to vote no, abstain, or not voting for cause, raise your hands. Rita, is your hand raised? No. Alita, can't.
I missed the discussion, so I'm not going to vote.
Well, so if you're here, do you want to, I think you need to vote, do something.
No, I came, but I'm not voting.
Okay,
Thank you.
She had our coffee cup indicated, so.
all right, okay. Okay, so that, I guess that's unanimous. And again, that'll come up, just so you know, in 2 weeks from today at the full board meeting, which will be in person, as I mentioned. That's true. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good evening.
You too.
Okay. Next is item number 5, and I want to see, this says request to add street cleaning regulations across the entirety of Lexington Avenue between 59th and 96th. I didn't get the sense that from our last meeting that we were going all the way to 96th Street particularly. I thought it was, I thought the concern was below 90th, and I don't know whether, do we know what's been noticed on this? Kevin, do you know?
I'm sorry, I'm not caught up with this. Maybe if Will drops by sometime later, maybe he can give an update.
Well, sometime later we may be gone, but anyway.
My understanding was when so the background for those who may not recall this or weren't part of the board at the time is back in 2019, New York City DOT came to us with the proposal to add the bus lane that is currently in place on Lexington Avenue, and concurrently to change the parking regulations to add to the commercial loading zones that were in effect on Lexington Avenue. And as that change occurred, the prior regulations that I believe existed, I need to just confirm that, that included street cleaning regulations were essentially dropped. And I don't know that it was intentional or if it was just an oversight, but as a result, throughout this corridor, much or possibly all of Lexington between 59th and 96th now no longer has any time set aside for no parking street cleaning regulations. So this is brought to our attention, and this is what essentially the request is. So regardless of what the specific blocks are that are impacted by it, I think what we've talked about in the past as a committee is that we should be ensuring that all blocks do have the ability to allow street cleaners to come through, and that signage should reflect that in order to ensure that that they have that dedicated time, which doesn't exist currently along most of Lexington Avenue.
Yeah, I know Andrew Fine, who's here, was he the one that he suggested at one of our last meetings that we put this on the agenda. And I don't know if Andrew wants to comment. I'm not sure. I thought he was suggesting like 90th, below 90th or something like that.
That's the stretch that I walked. I've further had clarification that it was really 59th to 96th. It wasn't that they had specific street cleaning alternate side on Lexington Avenue. It's that they had no standing anytime between 7 and 10 a.m. So the sanitation sweeper had ample opportunity to roll down Lex and clean both sides of the street. And when that regulation was changed after 2019, sometime during the pandemic, when that bus lane went in, they changed all of those no standing from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. to commercial parking only 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. So now there's no hour of any day that there is no parking in the parking lanes. So what happens is the sanitation's explanation is they do their best to get there. The problem is when they bring their sweeper through, all the parking spots are taken. And then you have most of the double parking spots are taken as well. So there's absolutely, if you're going to put a percentage on it, back of the envelope, maybe 5% of all the parking lane gets swept, or the curb gets swept. 95% easily just does not. So I noticed that because in talking with businesses on Lexington Avenue in the 80s on a separate issue, which was actually food trucks parking there, new food trucks, I noticed, and businesses noticed, it's just filthy on Lexington Avenue. And the reality is it happened because they changed this regulation and sanitation no longer has access to the curb. So therefore, I've asked DOT to change that regulation. DOT said come to CB8. So here I am, and I think it's logical that they at least make an hour a day or whatever their sanitation is comfortable with, so that they have access to the curb and that they can sweep.
Yeah, and I just double checked, and currently it looks like from 94th Street South is where the commercial parking zones exist, where there is no time of day where there is no standing or complete prohibition of parking. And I believe
Correct.
that other avenues have, I think it's a half hour dedicated to.
I think you're right on that. I think it's like 8:30 to 9 on 3rd Avenue, something like that. But and they do sanitation efficiently passes through and sweeps every day
Right.
during that restriction.
Right, and I just suggest we don't need to be prescriptive as to the specific time or length. We could just make a
Right.
request that it be
Right.
provided, and obviously DOT and sanitation will coordinate to work on the precise times that work within the constraints that they have in terms of the street sweeper schedules and the runs that they do and such.
Right. I'd like to thank CB8 for taking this up in a fairly expeditious fashion, and hopefully we can make the neighborhood just a little bit cleaner.
Thank you, Andrew. And so Craig, we're pretty sure this was noticed, everything here is appropriately noticed.
I don't know that it was that we posted anything, because I thought that hasn't happened since before the pandemic, where we've been posting entire corridors. But this was made, the agenda was clear that it included. That's why I put 59th and 96 on there. I just wanted to include the entire length to cover all of our bases.
Okay, Rita Hopper.
This is a no-brainer. I make a motion to approve the street cleaning on Lexington Avenue between 59th Street and 96th Street, 7 to 9 a.m. I don't know if it's every day or every other day.
We can they'll know how to, we'll just specify appropriate street cleaning measures, as what they always do.
I don't see how anybody is going to be against street cleaning.
Well, I don't know. You can probably find someone against anything here in our board, but I think you're probably right.
I'm trying to be positive.
Okay, is there a second? I assume there is. Yes, okay. All right. Further discussion. Lita, did you want to say something on this?
I do. I'd like to make a friendly amendment limiting the amount of time of street cleaning to 3rd Avenue, because Lexington Avenue is really narrow. There's one moving lane of traffic that just gets completely congested. And I could attest to the truth of Andrew's statement that it is filthy and desperately needs cleaning. But because of the bus lane and the double parked trucks for deliveries, that it's that if they could just limit the amount of time, that might help for everything. Thank you.
30 minutes, is that what you're talking about? Like
whatever it is on other avenues. I think someone said 30 minutes on 3rd.
Yeah, I think it's 30 minutes. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Is that Rita, is that okay with you?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
You want to take the roll, Craig? See who's still hanging in there?
Yes. Okay. All right. It's myself, Chuck, Alita, John McClelland, Juno, Lori, Michelle, Mrs. Brown, Paul, Rebecca, Rita, Russell, Stephanie, Valerie, although Russell may have stepped away.
Okay, all right, so let's vote. All those in favor, you don't have to do anything. Anyone opposed or wants to abstain or not vote for cause, please raise your hand. Okay, so that passes unanimously. Okay, good.
Hey,
All
Chuck,
right.
I just wanted to say it's Colleen. It's 30 minutes. You're absolutely correct. And sanitation will determine the days and the hours based on their schedule in the area, and they will let us know as well, so we can install the signs.
Okay, great. Thank you, Colleen. Okay. Item number 6, this is e-bike safety, and it's discussion of potential licensing and registration of bikes. I assume we're talking about e-bikes here.
Yes.
And this again was Andrew Pine, I believe, who proposed this and asked us to bring it up. And is there anyone who wants to start off this discussion?
Well, Andrew has his hand up.
Andrew, yes, Andrew has his hand up. Go ahead, Andrew.
All right, back again. Thank you, gentlemen and gentlewomen of CB8. Obviously, we have a problem. Since e-bikes were legalized by the city 4 years ago, they've completely run out of control. I think everybody's experienced either getting hit by an e-bike or swiped and nearly hit by an e-bike. And we're all basically either victims or potential victims. We have the problem, and it's multi-leveled. The e-bike batteries have killed 13 people in fires, and we've seen how explosive they are and how hot the flames are when these things blow up. We also have the issue of these e-bikes being used, the e-bikes and scooters, the plateless scooters, being used in the commission of crimes. A good example would be the Dayona Deli murder on 82nd and 3rd Avenue, where the guy took off in a plateless, I think it was an e-scooter. It may have been gas powered, but it was one of those Razor things that go like 50 miles an hour. But for one reason or another, none of them are plated. In general, we have like an electric vehicle safety problem, and we have a micro mobility. I mean, they have all these words for this, but we have an issue. I think everybody would agree that we need accountability of e-bikes, scooters. We can't permit mopeds from roaming the street without plates or with obscured or obstructed plates. It's really just turned into the Wild West out there. I helped start a group called the E-Vehicle Safety Alliance, and the response to this group has been overwhelming. Literally just over a month into announcing that we were forming this group, we brought out 44 live people, mainly seniors, to the West Side Democrats meeting, and had a constructive conversation with Brad Hoylman. And I'm sorry, I forget what his hyphenated name is, Hoylman Steele or something like that. In any case, we're calling for, and by the way, if people are interested in this, we do have an email. It's nyc.evsa for E-Vehicle Safety Alliance @outlook.com. I think I could put that in the chat, but we're basically calling for all motorized vehicles, whether they're motorized by gas or motorized by an electric battery, that they should be registered, licensed, and insured. They should have license plates. So if somebody gets hit, there's accountability and there's insurance to pay for the injuries. We also think that batteries should be inspected. These bikes should be inspected, that the battery should match the brand of bike. They should be appropriate for that brand of bike, or UL listed to be appropriate for that bike. There should be basically a registration sticker that's put on the bike and put on the battery that matches. That way we know that they're not going to burn the building down when they charge the battery. We are vehemently opposed to the quote unquote pilot program where the city has now allowed e-bikes to take over Central Park, which is just ludicrous. You give them an inch, they take a mile. They're now all over the pathways as well. They're not allowed there. They shouldn't be allowed on the roadways. It's our last kind of oasis. We need them out of the park. This is all fueled and funded by a special interest lobbying group. I think we're all very well aware of transportation alternatives and what they have, and their sponsors being basically apps and traffic cam companies, et cetera. And we're done with it. I mean, the vast majority, I think if you polled everybody in this chat room or whatever you call this, if you polled everybody, I think you'd be at like 95% of all people say, yes, this is ludicrous. This has to stop. We also think that all these delivery bike guys should have identification on their backs or their vests that they were supposed to have. And somehow that identification law that made it through the city council years ago got discarded when they started working for multiple apps, not just one restaurant. I don't know if I'm missing anything here. Oh, riding on the sidewalk, forget about it. The penalty for riding on the sidewalk should be your bike is confiscated and you get it back after you pay $500. If you do it twice, you lose your bike and you lose $500. And this may sound really punitive, but that's not the intention. The intention here is to change behavior, because the second the word gets out that your bike's getting confiscated, then guess what happens? It doesn't happen anymore. They stop riding on the, yeah. I know when I was a kid and I was 7 years old and I rode my bike on a sidewalk, I had every senior in the neighborhood screaming at me that this was inappropriate and you can't do that. And guess what? I didn't do it any longer. So we need this problem taken care of. We got to stop with the running the red lights. We're all motor vehicles should obey the law. We need this reinforced. And I really appreciate the opportunity here to mention this. Again, it's NYC-EVUSA at Outlook, and on Twitter, NYC_EVSA. And we do plan to have an e-vehicle safety town hall on the last Wednesday of this month. It will include elected officials, the fire department, the police department, so and concerned citizens. We basically need the politicians, rather than listening to the lobby and working on their behalf, to listen to their constituents and get this under control. That's all I have to say. I really thank you for the time.
Okay, we have another member of the public that I see, that Dylan Geronimo Kennedy. Can we unmute Dylan?
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
So before we begin, I just want to start that there is a distinction between e-bikes and mopeds, and I know that they've been kind of overlapped and they're both worth discussing. But as of right now, and I sent a link from the DOT kind of detailing the differences, but I think a lot of the concerns are about mopeds, which as of right now are required to have vehicle registration, are required to have license plates. These are the kinds of vehicles that are going above 25 miles per hour. They have no operable pedals. These are still being used. There are risks associated with them, but asking for the kinds of slower e-bikes to have vehicle registration because faster mopeds are frequently violating the rules, I think is kind of conflating things. And I would ask that before we have a resolution on this, we'd want to have a better sense of, well, how many injuries are actually coming from these e-bikes, and specifically e-bikes, with operable pedals that are going at slower speeds, before we support any resolution that dial up the difficulties or make it harder for people to use these vehicles. The second point I would make is that there was a comment before that 95% of the people on this call would have issues with e-bikes and mopeds, and that may very well be true, and we'll have a vote and we'll see. But there are people who are a part of this community who are not necessarily on this call. I'm not a deliveryista personally. I don't know if we have any members of the board who are, but I view them as members of our community too. And I don't think it's should be held against deliveryistas who are quite likely delivering dinners to people right now, that they're not necessarily present at a community board meeting here. I will say I am concerned about batteries. I would not necessarily support something where people are pulled off the road and have their batteries inspected, but I do think there could be regulations for bike repair shops or any kind of sales to limit certain batteries, because I know that the battery I use as part of a city bike user is held up to a higher standard than other ones. And I think we could certainly limit any places where there's a repair or any place where there's commercial charging or sales of it to ensure that those are safe. The final comment I would make is that if the community board does decide to take any action on something like a $500 fine for a bike, which would involve confiscating it until you pay it, and then for a second offense, just confiscating it completely, I would ask that if we endorse such a high fine for bicycles, that we would also enforce such a high fine for cars speeding or running red lights. I understand that driving on the sidewalk is annoying, and I do not do it, and I hate when people do it. But there are also huge risks to speeding and running red lights in a car. And if we want to have $500 for first offense and confiscation for second, I ask that we enforce that uniformly. That is all. Thank you very much and have a wonderful night.
I just asked Kevin if he could put on the screen the NYC DOT graphic, which shows the summary of the different types of e-bikes that exist and the distinction between the e-bikes and the mopeds and which ones are legal and illegal. And actually, yes, so this is it. You could see, I think scroll up one more line if possible, please, Kevin. So you can now see here, there are 3 different classes of e-bikes, and then there are 3 different classes of motors. And each of the classes of e-bikes are the ones that have operable pedals, and those are different from the moped class A's, B's, and C's, which I know is a separate issue. And then there are those that are let's say the illegal ones that have no licenses, no license plates, no identification whatsoever, and look like mopeds, but may not fall within one of these classes. That's where I'm a little unclear as to what it is, but I just thought this would be helpful just for reference as we're talking about the different types here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Craig. I think we had a couple of other people here who, let's see, members of the public here first. Kevin, there was, who's the members of the public? There was, I can't see now that this chart is blocking.
Oh, okay. So next from the public, we have Brennan Carley.
Yes, that's who it was, Brennan Carley. I wanted to call. Why don't we unmute him? Go ahead, Mr. Carley.
Hi, yeah, thank you very much. So first, regarding the chart that you put up, there are not actually 3 categories. There are the 2 categories that you showed. There are e-bikes and there are mopeds. what we're experiencing is the mopeds that are unlicensed, they're not a separate category. They're just mopeds that are not following the law. So first, I agree with everything that Dylan said. I think it's really important that we make a distinction between e-bikes and the mopeds. My view is that true e-bikes don't really need any additional regulation or licensing other than the batteries, which should meet the underwriter's laboratory standards. But critically, the existing laws need to be enforced, and they're not. E-bikes of any kind, whether e-bikes or mopeds, should not be running lights, should not be going the wrong way, should not be on the sidewalk. And that's really a major problem. I mean, frankly, NYPD generally doesn't enforce those laws. So I think there's actually, though, two things that need to be addressed. So first, I think a resolution basically encouraging NYPD to enforce the laws that are on the books would be a huge start, right? Writing new laws, if the existing laws are not being enforced, is not going to be terribly helpful. New York State already has laws in the books that require mopeds to be registered with license plates and driver's license required. They're not allowed in the bike lanes or in the parks, never mind going the wrong way or running lights, and the laws are simply not being enforced. So I think we need to encourage NYPD to enforce the existing laws we have on the books. The second, I would call out the fact that there's a significant gap in the existing law, which allows the e-bike stores to sell illegal mopeds and motorcycles with impunity. In particular, I would call out Fly e-bike. I'm sure many of you have seen, I see Fly motorcycles driven all over the city without license plates. You know, next time you see one of these things zipping by, 3 times out of 4, it's a Fly e-bike. And it's basically an unlicensed motorcycle. I think the answer to that is mopeds and motorcycles that are sold in New York City, or frankly, New York State, should be registered and have license plates before they leave the shop, and hold the shop accountable for selling only legal and only registered e-bikes. Because I've talked to NYPD, I've talked to the local precinct, and one of the things that they have said is they cannot chase down every e-bike. And there's obviously a safety issue if you have, you know, police in cars trying to chase after these unlicensed e-bikes. That creates, you know, safety issues of its own. So I think trying to enforce them on the streets is very difficult. And I appreciate that it's hard for NYPD to do that. But I think if we can stop them from leaving the shop without license and registration and require the shops to only sell legal bikes, I think that will have a significant benefit. By the way, I think State Senator Liz Krueger has drafted legislation to that effect. I don't know where that stands right now. I don't know if it's, you know, been tabled or not. But I think encouraging that kind of legislation is something that we should be taking action on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Another member of the public, Kathy Brady. Can we unmute Kathy Brady?
Mute. Very good. Hello. I just thank you for posting that chart, because you see that the e-bikes do in fact go as fast as the mopeds. Now, what's happening here is that wealthy, powerful, politically connected apps like Lyft, Grubhub, who contribute a lot of money to our dear politicians, they are incentivizing these drivers to go as fast as they can, to deliver as fast as they can, the food that many of us order. So this is the problem. Our sidewalks, our streets are not safe. There is a desire on the part of EVSA, whose meetings I have attended, to have e-bikes classified as mopeds, to get licenses, to get registration, so that when people are hurt and maimed, as many bicycle riders have been, there is the hope that someone who may have insurance can help pay for the horrible medical bills that are resulting. Cars are licensed and you can see them coming. We all want to make the cars the enemy, and that is a problem. But the fact is, you can see them coming, and the drivers are licensed, and so are the vehicles. So it has been said by many of us who have approached the police about enforcement, have been told, the police have said, we are told not to enforce laws against the drivers because we don't want to be accused of picking on yet another minority group. This is very sad. I feel for these drivers but they are the tools of powerful interests who are making our streets unsafe. And as we order from these people, we are enabling them. So I hope people will look into EVSA, and we have a problem. New York is dying and it is becoming unlivable. And e-bikes are a big part of the problem. Thank you.
Hey, let's go to the board now, and I want to talk to people who, call on people who haven't spoken on anything before, and we'll get to others. John McClellan, next.
Thank you. This is an issue that I've felt passionate about for the last several years. I frankly don't make a distinction between e-bikes and mopeds. To me, they're equally dangerous when I'm trying to cross the street. And it's a judgment call for them whether they stop for the light or not. If you say anything to them, they curse at you. They, in many cases, going faster than any of the cars in the car lanes. So I think something really has to be done. And I understand the police say there's nothing they can do. If we put a car out on the corner, people will stop. And the moment the policeman goes away, they're right back. But I think something has to be done here. I mean, I'm a senior citizen. I'm reasonably spry for my age, but I get frightened crossing First Avenue, where the bike lanes are just completely out of control, and it's the same on Second. I think at this point, I'm probably echoing what everyone else has said, but I think something really has to be done about this.
Thank you, John. Next, Russell Squire, our board chair. Russell, let's unmute Russell.
Hey, sorry about that. So I'd like to make a resolution, and if it's seconded, speak to it. And the resolution is that we call for license plate, registration, and insurance requirements for e-bikes and mopeds. That we call for a requirement that e-bikes and mopeds have to be registered before they leave the store. And that we want enforcement of safety rules, and that to the extent that somebody who is violating the rules is employed by a restaurant or delivery service, that the penalty should be enforced against the service rather than the individual driver. And if there's a second, I'll speak to that.
Is there a second? Do we see? Yep, I see seconds. Okay. Yes, number of seconds. Go ahead, Russell.
Okay, so first of all, I think people on this call do appreciate the difference between e-bikes and mopeds. And frankly, the concerns that we have seen and heard relate to e-bikes as well in terms of the risks to pedestrians and pedestrian safety. I think, there's been a lot of talk from this board for a long time about the importance of enforcement of existing rules. And I frankly don't understand how you can have enforcement without license plates. I mean, I just truthfully, and maybe somebody can explain it to me, don't see any way for any kind of safety enforcement unless you have a license plate, because the police are not going to get into a high-speed chase of somebody on an e-bike who's violating a rule. And as Brendan said, nor would we want them to. And so unless you're going to have some means of identifying people, if you're not going to be chasing them down, there is no possibility of enforcement. So that's why I think we need these rules. I think the registration before people leave sort of speaks for itself. And so I hope we can pass this resolution.
Thank you, Russell. Let me go next to Juno Chawla Singh. Sorry. Go ahead and mute Juno.
Okay, so this is not really related to what Russell said, but I think along with, even if you guys are going to do any enforcement, this is separate from enforcement. Part of the reason why people on e-bikes are going on sidewalks is because it's just too dangerous to go on the street. And if you end up going on the street cycling and you do this for your job for multiple years, like it's without a doubt you're going to get hit and you're going to get hurt. So part of the solution is to create more bike lanes, and that's going to end up meaning that there's less need for enforcement as well. It's going to make every other aspect of the job easier. And the other thing that I was going to say is, in regards to speeding, is there anything that the community board can do, like a recommendation or anything that can help, like encourage companies to pay like e-bike deliverers more? Because that will also help prevent any sort of speeding. That's it. Thank you.
Juno, I'd just like to point out that this committee and the board actually have called for protected bike lanes whenever possible, because we think that's really the solution to protect bikers and others. And we've got some, and I think we'll be getting more. But I think that's what you're saying, that we need more of those, and I think we all agree. Okay, let's see. Let's go back to let's go to Alita Camp then. We'll go back to.
If you want to speak, have people who haven't spoken before, Mrs. Brown had her hand up as
Oh,
well.
I'm sorry. I didn't see that. I can't. Mrs. Brown, please.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to add to Chair Squire's resolution that it's important that we take action now, because pedestrian safety is at a critical point. I use a walker now more and more every day, and I am intimidated even when the light is in my favor to cross the street. And we need to do better in monitoring, oversight, but more importantly, enforcement. So I support his resolution, and I encourage all board members to do so. We need to take action now. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, anyone else? Let's go back then to Alita.
Thank you. The argument that any kind of restriction will make it less likely for people to ride bikes has been raised by at board meetings before. People have to do things to get marriage licenses, to be able to vote, to drive a car, to be a lifeguard, all kinds of things that they still go ahead and pursue their hobbies, their interests, even though, and their choices, even though there are restrictions. So the idea that if you impose regulations and require that bikes, and I'll just include everything under bikes, even though I don't necessarily mean the pedal ones, will inhibit people and make them less likely to ride, I don't think is a reason not to require enforcement, because as Mrs. Brown just stated, not having regulations, not having registration chills pedestrians and makes it less likely that people will be out there crossing, but there is no organization protecting the rights of pedestrians as there is for the rights of bike riders. Second of all, I was told by police that the little mini motorcycles that I keep calling them are less than the CC requirements by the state to demand regulation. So they're 49 CCs rather than the 50, and that's why they don't need license plates. So clearly there's a lot of, to me, it sounds like there's a lot of confusion on this issue, and understanding the reason that they're not regulated, I think would be a help. And for whoever said that they should not leave the stores, like cars can't leave an auto lot without a license plate and registration, is exactly right. And that's what we should be looking for. So I'll stop there and fully support Russell's resolution and hope that everyone else does as well. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Craig. And thank you very much, Russell.
If I could just interject for a second, I'd like to just take a moment myself to be able to just say something, since I haven't really spoken about anything tonight. I just want to express that my concern with where we're going with this is that we're being overly expansive here. And I think there's a distinction to be made between the e-bikes that are truly the ones that are most dangerous and the ones that are really meant to help out the pedal assist ones that are really often used for recreational purposes, and the ones that are, I think, are least problematic, and the ones that are not being used exclusively by almost exclusively by businesses and deliveristas and such. And speaking about that as well, I do think that we have to try to figure out how to balance the concerns, and all the concerns that have raised, at least in my mind, are valid. For sure, clearly there's an epidemic here with bikes that are misbehaving, and mopeds and certain types of e-bikes that are operating illegally. But at the same time, this is going to, I think, present issues for the people who are relying on e-bikes to make a living, and people who are struggling most to just try to make it by. And I think there's a lot of nuance to this discussion, and I feel very uncomfortable being in a position having to vote on something where I think there are some aspects of what we're talking about that are certainly worth considering, but I certainly am not at a point where I can comfortably vote yes by any means. So I just want to at least put that out there. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. There's a couple of other members of the public who, let's see, Evelyn David, I think, on this. Can we unmute Evelyn?
Oh, hi, good evening. Very interesting conversations, all of this. And, you know, if you're walking around New York City, every time I get up in the morning, the bikes are going through the red lights. It's either bikes, moped. I don't even know what they are anymore. Okay. So it's really unfortunate. I remember I was standing on a corner when a bike or one of these things went by through a red light, practically knocked somebody down, and the police were on the corner doing something. And I looked at one of the policewoman, and she just shrugged her shoulders. She said, "We can't do anything. There are no rules." Now, that was what she thought. There needs to be some kind of regulation for all of this. Doesn't have to be onerous, just has to be regulation. Okay, a long time ago, I thought with the city bikes, if the city bikes had license plates on them, when you go to take out a city bike, you put in your charge card. If you do something horrible to somebody, you knock them over, you go through the red light, whatever, the police can get the license plate. We'll know exactly who it was that took that bike out because of the charge card. Anyway, I know the discussion is going on. You're all attacking from many sides. I just have another little issue going on with this restaurant that is 1 inch away from the bus lane, okay, on Lexington Avenue.
Evelyn, stop.
Yeah.
Let's not get into that.
Okay.
We're talking about this. and-
Oh, okay. Well, no, all right. Okay, no problem. No problem.
Number of
So
people
continuing on about bikes, etc., they do not all obey the direction of the street, and I know you know that. Many times they're going the wrong direction. So, I mean, there's got to be something that this community board can put out there that's not too onerous. People that ride bikes, e-bikes, whatever they're driving, whatever they're riding on, can go, "Oh, I better not do that." That's all, right? Because they're not paying attention and they're doing whatever they want. And they flipped you the bird if you look at them cross-eyed, if they've gone,
Evelyn,
you know,
Evelyn, please,
so
stop,
anyway.
Please, we have a lot of people want to speak on this.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, can we keep our remarks, concise here, because we have a number of speakers and we don't want to be here all night on this particular item. Who can help it? Let's go to Leah next, who hasn't spoken on this.
Thank you very much. I'm a little surprised that I don't think there are any representatives of our electeds on tonight, considering that this item was on the agenda. And I know in the past that some of our electeds have not been in favor of any regulation of the various kind of bikes that are out there. But what do we know what the position of the electeds are and why they're not engaging in this issue?
Well, we have someone here from the representative, the Assemblywoman Seabright. And I don't know if anyone else is here from any of the other elected officials. But I will just tell you, from a political point of view, we can pass all the resolutions we want, but we're not getting anywhere with the state legislature because they clearly, and you can ascribe it to anything you want, but they clearly are not going to want to do any further regulation. In fact, there was more regulation on this, and they have actually loosened up what the regulations are with regard to these kinds of things. So that's the political landscape, if you want to know what it really is. Okay. I don't know whether anyone wants to comment. I don't know whether we have Harley needed. I don't know whether he doesn't have to if he doesn't want to, but he's here. Okay. Let's go back to Andrew Fine here, member of the public, and then we have another members of the board. Andrew.
Thanks, Chuck. Yeah, in my presentation, I missed a couple of things, but in regards to the graphic that was shown, I feel like this graphic is really, really misleading because there's the column that says, how fast can I go? And the fastest class of e-bike, it says 25 miles an hour. And the reality is it's not, how fast can it go legally is 25 miles an hour. How fast are the highest throttle count e-bikes capable of? Probably closer to 40 miles an hour. So it's a small point, but it's a big difference, and it's innocuous in a way, but it's not how fast can you go or how fast is it capable of going, but it's the law. That's what the graphic shows. In terms of Keith Powers' idea, sorry, Keith, love you, man, and all that, but the idea that that New York City taxpayers should shell out $25 million to buy back batteries from delivery guys when you have a multi-billion dollar food delivery business, several businesses that are bilking small businesses out up to 30% of their take on every order. Guess what? DoorDash and Seamless and Uber Eats can afford to pay for the batteries that their workers are using. I mean, it's ludicrous that the taxpayer should pick up the business expense of DoorDash, etc. And I should have pointed out in my initial comments that the idea here is that we want e-bikes reclassified as being the same because they're motorized. They should be the same as moped class B, which requires the registration, the license plate, insurance, etc. And to Evelyn's point, city bikes, I have no idea why you don't have a large ID number. I know that on the crossbar, there's a little tiny one that no camera could ever pick up, no camera that you would have in a store or on a lamppost. You need like a very large prominent number on the front and the back of every e-bike so that you can identify when an e-bike, and you have some real clueless people riding around on these things, but I've seen these crashes all the time. They stop, they hit somebody, they stop, they're like, are you okay? The person's laying like bleeding, and then they say, I gotta go, and just split. So it's really all about accountability. We want accountability for these people. We want them to stop running the red lights, etc. I won't go on and on and on, but and by the way, I've had several discussions with the 19th on this. They have a basement full of various mopeds, ATVs, e-bikes, you name it. And it's like shooting fish in a barrel. We really have to get this under control. And to that point that you can't do it without a license plate or without an ID, that's 100% right. And that's why I think e-bikes, city bikes, etc., should have identifying plates. And not to mention delivery guys, they should have helmets on. I mean, come on. I mean, it makes no sense that they don't have helmets. And then when they die in an accident without a helmet, you know, helmets prevent what 60% of all head injuries that are fatal. I mean, it's a no-brainer. So anyway, I really appreciate Russell's resolution. I would add that we need to get them out of Central Park. That's ludicrous as well. And I'm sure Valerie and Michelle have some other ideas to add along, but I appreciate the time again, and thank you for taking this up.
Okay, Rita, Hopper?
I agree with everything that's going on. I have tried to even cross avenues where cars can turn but e-bikes turn. I'd like to call the question.
Rita, you can't, you were talking and you can't make a motion. So you can't make that motion right
Call
now.
the question, please.
Well,
We know where we stand.
I understand. No, I understand. I'd like you to call the question, but if you want to call the question, you can't make a statement and then call
Sorry,
it.
I screwed up.
I mean, I guess the parliamentary procedure rules didn't quite take. But anyway, Valerie?
We hear from Billy. He raised his hand and he hasn't spoken yet.
Oh, Billy.
Oh, can I? Okay. Can I just?
Let Valerie, I call on Valerie. Let Valerie say what she wants to say. Go ahead.
Appreciate that. I'd like to offer a friendly amendment to Russell's resolution to additionally call for the immediate suspension of the pilot program for e-bikes in Central Park. If he agrees, then I'll talk to it, but.
Can I question whether that's actually germane to this discussion? That would be something I would think would need to be noticed and be part of a different discussion.
Why is that?
Because we're talking about licensing and registration, not Central Park and usage.
Well, okay, well, I don't know. Why?
I accept it as a friendly amendment, but I defer to the chairs on the, whether it's in order, but certainly as relates to
probably
whether I'm okay with adding it, I am.
Craig, I think it's probably, germane enough.
Okay, if you think so, that's fine.
Okay.
Russell,
Well,
you accept that, Russell?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Russell. I just want to say, I just want to step back for a minute. In my capacity as the president of the East 72nd Street Neighborhood Association, we had a public safety meeting with the 19th precinct on June 20th. And I can't tell you the number of seniors that are becoming shut-ins. And this is the Upper East Side is densely populated by elderly people who are becoming shut-ins because they are afraid to leave their apartments and walk on the sidewalks of the Upper East Side because of the massive proliferation of e-bikes. And Central Park has also been a sanctuary for these people. And they are already talking about how the pathways are overrun with e-bikes and e-scooters and e-vehicles. And I think we need to nip this in the bud before it gets so out of control that, it's just getting beyond. And I will say that one of the things, and I'm not putting this in the resolution, but part of the problem is, and, I was in a meeting with Commissioner Sechat before she announced her resignation. Bikes are not allowed on the sidewalks of New York. And the problem is that the traffic police have not been empowered to hand out any tickets. They have not evolved as a police force in terms of enforcement. And something needs to be done to empower these guys to give tickets and confiscate bicycles. They're supposed to be traffic police. And this is part, whether you like it or not, this is part of traffic now, and that should be part of it. And I just want to say, in addition, that, look, I walked over the 59th Street Bridge on Sunday. It was like having a car coming right next to me in the pedestrian lane over the 59th Street Bridge. E-bikes were speeding. And just like a car, to echo Andrew's point, just like a car, those things are coming right at you. They're in the pedestrian lane.
There's nobody up there to enforce it. And, just like everything else, this is another situation where, somebody rolled out a program, authorized e-bikes on the streets, and didn't figure out how they were going to be, how these rules and regulations, or if there were any rules or regulations. They just said, okay, like put this on the NYPD's plate. So, I mean, it's just insane to think that the enforcement can come that way. I actually think that City Bike can do a lot to enforce their own biking. They have GPS on these bikes. They can be seeing that people are going the wrong way down a street. If they know that, there should be rules that they revoke that person's ability to use City Bike. Say what you will about cars, but there aren't that many cars going the wrong way down a one-way street. On 2nd Avenue, Saturday morning, 3 e-bikes in the space of 15 minutes were going the wrong way up the bike lane on 2nd Avenue when we have a 1st Avenue bike lane. I don't know what else to do. We need to be cognizant of that. And that's all I'm going to say. And I thank you for accepting the friendly amendment.
All right. Go to Billy Freeland. Billy hasn't spoken yet. Go ahead, Billy.
Good evening, everyone. So at the risk of maybe I've misunderstood the resolution, if this is applying to e-bikes broadly, and if it's conflating mopeds, class 2, class 3 e-bikes with the e-bikes, that are required to, your sort of typical pedal assist e-bike, your city bike, I can't support this for a few reasons. One being,
by the way,
yeah,
it is. Billy.
Yeah, that's my understanding. So one being that, as a practical matter, I don't think you're ever going to see, license plates and license requirements on your standard pedal assist e-bike. And if we want to actually have an influence as a board, I would focus on mopeds, which, by the way, the law already says you need a plate. There are already requirements. The focus should be on how do you get enforcement there. And I've always felt the burden should be on the businesses, not just the restaurants, but in the case where you have Seamless and Grubhub and so forth, they ought to be responsible for the conduct of their employees and contractors. That's where you're going to make a difference, in my view. And if you do a broad sweeping proposal to license and register every e-bike, A, I don't think it's going to pack a punch. B, let's say it did, and let's say you got it in place, what you're going to end up having is dramatically reduced use of e-bikes. And maybe for some folks, that's a desirable outcome. In my view, when we're trying to get more micromobility, more people out of cars, more people on different modes of transportation, I don't think that's the right approach. So what I would support, so I'm not going to vote for this resolution as written. What I would support is a different resolution, if someone wants to propose it, that would focus on businesses and their obligations, focus on mopeds. And also, if you want to talk City Bike, I have no principled objection to the idea that City Bike and Lyft ought to have a more obvious designator on their bikes so that if you were caught on camera, operating it the wrong way, you can more readily identify somebody. That seems like the burden falls on a large corporation like Lyft. I've got no principled objection to that. But I think this resolution as written is way too broad. And I guess the last thing I want to say is I hear what everyone's saying about, look, cars have, other requirements and already licensing requirements, and we have speed cameras. I can't tell you how many times I see a car take an illegal turn or run a red. It happens constantly where I'm walking around, just right now here on 3rd Avenue. I see it all the time. And not every intersection has a light. Not every violation is enforced. And cars are killing and injuring far more people in our city than e-bikes. So just as a matter of kind of principle, I want to say, I think we're wrong when we kind of maybe conflate cars and e-bikes. I think cars are the far more serious danger on our streets. But we're here to talk about e-bikes, and I just would really urge a more tailored resolution. And unless we have a more tailored resolution, I would urge you all to vote against this one so that we can actually do something that, in my view, would make a greater difference. So thank you for listening. And again, I apologize if I've in any way misstated the resolution, but that's how I understand it.
Thank you. Let's go to Lori Boros. She hasn't spoken on this.
Thank you, Chuck. I don't really have a lot to say about this because I basically agree with what Craig said. And also with what Billy said, and also what with Juno said, that I think we're trying to, the way I see it, the major problem is these vehicles on the sidewalks. That is a real danger and a real problem for everyone. And I'm just not sure what we can do about that, because I don't think that the police department is going to do anything about it unless they are instructed to do something about it. And it's been really clear to me from the beginning that the police, for whatever reason, are not interested in enforcement of these vehicles. So I don't really have an answer other than I would like to see maybe some sort of like public advertising campaign or something on, I don't know, like, I don't really know. I don't have an answer, I have to admit, but I just think that we should not be going in this global, like, let's get the delivery people, let's get because it's very, very different. The only thing, let me ask this question. Do you think it's possible for us to get representatives from the big three, you know, the Uber Eats and the whatever the other delivery companies are, DoorDash and whatever that, Grubhub? Could we invite them to a meeting and read them the riot act? Because they're, you know, they're the ones who would, you know, suffer from the when people do bad things, and they would be the people who are really responsible for enforcing how these vehicles behave. So that's all I'm going to say. I am not going to vote for this resolution because I think it's too global. And I appreciate the fact that we need to find some sort of an answer to this, but I don't think we're going about it the right way. Thank you.
Okay. Now we still have some people who want to speak. Well, Paul, let's go to Paul quickly, who hasn't spoken on this. Paul.
Thank you. I'll make it brief. 2 comments about the, it seems to be most of this discussions about delivery bicycles. First comment is to everyone, hand on heart, you know, a lot of people on this call order seamless and everything else like that. We are the demand for this stuff, so we've got to understand that. But also I think this idea is to have some sort of regulation. There already exists something in the DOT rules about delivery cyclists. I've got it printed out here from the DOT website. First of all, any of these delivery people have to take a safety course, which there's got to be a roster of the people who've taken it by the business. The business must register all sorts of details about the people that they are employing, including name, address, residence address, date of employment, discharge from employment, a unique 3-digit ID number, which must be on the front and back of the bike. I don't see much of this happening, but we have rules for this stuff already. They need to be enforced. So I don't know why we're reinventing the wheel. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, we have some other speakers, but let's see if we can be concise here. Michelle, go ahead.
Yeah, I thank Russell for his resolution, and this is a topic on which I have spoken for the past 10 years. We gave a lot to the cycling community, electric and regular bikes and whatever. We built an entire infrastructure for them. We took up our roads for them. They have given us nothing in return. And every time any kind of constraint is mentioned, it is poo-pooed and that somehow you're restricting their freedom. I'm frankly sick and tired of what we call the nuance. The issue is electric cycling you cannot enforce if you have no means of identification. And there is movement on the state level to ask for this in both the Senate and the Assembly. I have been working with Rebecca Seawright for years and years. One of the issues with electric bikes is that you can actually order online a generic electric component that you can attach to any bicycle. And to the extent that you could have a state law prohibiting that, you could put on that packaging that it cannot be sold in certain states and inhibit inhibited being sold. Also, to get this passed on the state level, you can qualify it to cities by size. A lot of opposition to it is in upstate New York, where you have more small towns where they have bike riding, electric and otherwise, but they don't have the issue that a city of over 1 million in population has. And you can put that in a resolution, and you can tailor that resolution so that it applies to big cities. So it's not true that there's no appetite for this. There may not be an appetite for it in Poughkeepsie, but there is an appetite for it in large cities in New York. And frankly, if you don't have a rider that has accountability, that has liability, and where you can identify them, you cannot expect any enforcing entity or agency to see an infraction and go running down the street by foot to try to catch up, or take a car and go speeding through streets to try to catch up with somebody. You have to have laws when it comes to lights and how far reaching those lights should be. When it comes to noise, these bikes are completely, you cannot hear them, and the lights that they have on them, there's no requirement to throw that lighting image enough distance where a pedestrian a block away would see it. You can have a light, but you could have the teeniest little light which tells nobody anything. So there's absolutely a way to get this done. I'm sick of the cycling community opposing it. They don't want any restriction on their own behavior. And don't talk to me about cars, because cars carry more than one person, and they do many different deeds than cyclists do, which are restricted to the young and or able-bodied. So we turned this city upside down for you, and all we're asking for is a little accountability. And I would love to see those that are members of groups to support this effort. So I heartily applaud this resolution and hope we can get it done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's have Dylan Geronimo Kennedy.
Hi, I just wanted to speak that I think there was a earlier comment from the gentleman immediately after I spoke, who shared about why we should, have these emphasis on the business of licensing and registration before they leave the shop and e-bike things. I think that keeping it targeted on mopeds makes sense, because we've been discussing both enforcement of existing rules and including that with extending new rules to vehicles which do not have them. I think it would make sense to split those into two resolutions, because one is changing the rules and one is ideas for enforcement. And I think that I would certainly support the one enforcement of existing rules, getting that on businesses, forcing the business to ensure that all of their sales are compliant, but then have a separate resolution for adding new rules and new requirements, because I think that those two things are separate and should be handled differently. And I think we've heard a lot of people who would support the enforcement side of things of existing rules, but not, but a lot of those people would not support adding new rules, and combining them in one resolution to me seems to conflate it in an unnecessary way. Thank you.
Lily Freeland.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to raise my hand.
Okay. Alita? Pam?
Thank you. I just want to note that a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know what any updates are, but a 6-year-old boy in that, I think Garvey Park, whatever the name of it is, up in East Harlem, was critically injured by a speeding delivery bike that had no registration and no way of tracking it. So for that family, how does wanting people to use bikes, and I'm in favor of people using all kinds of modes of transportation, but how does that compare to the safety or the loss of life or forever brain damage? And these are the things that we're seeing in parks, and these are the things that we're seeing on streets, and that's what's That's what's really scary. And I just wanted to end with that. No one wants to be in a position of having a lifelong injury or any kind of injury from that. And there has to be a way to coexist. Regulations, enforcement, some of these bikes, some of the motorcycles don't even have lights on them at night, and they're ridden by people wearing all black. How is anyone supposed to see that or have any idea that they're coming, much less going the right way down a bike lane? And we all know that bike lanes are no panacea because the motorcycles are in there, the delivery carts are in there, they're going the wrong way, they're going too fast, they're going through red lights. So I'll just start with that safety should be paramount, not just for the rider, but for the pedestrian as well. Thank you.
Russell?
Thanks. So I just want to observe, no one has answered the question of what enforcement means without license plates. So the idea that we need more enforcement and people are on board with that, you know, or that there are rules already and they just need to be enforced. Again, the question remains, how do you do that if you have no way to identify the bikers who are breaking the rules, absent, you know, some kind of chasing them down or whatever, which I don't think anybody wants. What do people mean by enforcement? People who are bike advocates, people who have concerns about this resolution. I just have not heard an answer to that question. And frankly, I don't think that there is an answer to that question. So, and just to the example that Billy gave of a car, you know, going through or doing something illegal, that car has a license plate that somebody could write down or take a photo of to identify they're breaking the rules. And in intersections where there are cameras for enforcement, there can be enforcement against those cars. And you could also have enforcement against bikes that are breaking the rules. And as it is now, you could have all the cameras that you want to catch everybody breaking the rules. But unless you have a way to identify the bike and the biker, you could take all the photos that you want and it means nothing. The last thing is, and this is true also of the concern on the sidewalk. Again, you know, you have people saying, oh, it's okay to, you know, we want to have enforcement to keep these people off the sidewalk. How do you do it unless you have license plates? The last point I just want to make, the reason I accepted the friendly amendment regarding the parks is the reason that we most often hear about why it was important to legalize e-bikes is because of how hard it is to be a delivery driver and or delivery bike rider, and that, you know, they need this assistance. And I agree, it's a very hard job. But to me, then that reason falls away when you're talking about Central Park, which is really for recreation. And I don't think that we, you know, the same impetus and need applies in the park. And I think people should be able to feel comfortable strolling there without having to worry as much about their safety.
Thank you, Russell. Rita, Hopper?
All the question.
Okay, is there a second for that? So, is there a second? Yeah, yes, I see. Russell second, okay. And Michelle second, okay. All right, the question's been called. Greg, you want to take the roll here?
Yes, it's my, can we just lower all the hands, please? Thank you. It's myself, Chuck, Rita, Russell, Alita, Billy, John McClement, Juno, Lori, Michelle, Mrs. Brown, Paul, Rita, Stephanie, Valerie.
Anyone else there? Okay. All right, so if you're in favor of this resolution as it was stated, and accept with the amendment is accepted, you don't have to do anything. If you're against this, if you want to vote no or abstain or not voting for cause, raise your hand. Okay. Lori?
No.
Craig?
I'm a no.
Paul?
I'm a no.
And Billy?
No.
No?
9 versus 11.
You know? I mean, you know?
No.
No? Someone should mute themselves if they're, I don't know what's happening. And I'm voting no also. Any other? Anyone else? Okay, what's the total on that, Craig, do we know?
So I believe that passed 8-6.
8-6, okay. All right. Let's see, is Colleen, is Colleen still here?
I think Colleen left.
Left, okay. So we don't have any, is there any old business or new business?
Well, I was just going to point out something that I had asked Colleen to share,
Okay.
which is, I know that Michelle had asked before about summer streets, and I know that that has been announced. And in fact, I believe that as far as it relates to our district, that it's going to be the same. I know that New York City actually, DOT announced that they are going to be expanding the program into other boroughs as well. But in terms of what it's going to be and how it would impact our community district, it's going to be similar to last year, 3 weeks in the beginning of August, and it will extend all along Park Avenue throughout the entirety of our district up until, I believe, 109th Street, but I need to confirm that.
Thanks, Craig. All right, we have a couple of hands here. Michelle?
Yeah, so in addition to that, so thank you very much, Craig, for following up with that. It's very disappointing. Nobody asked for this that I know of. I keep getting answers that, oh, people asked for it. I asked around. I don't know anybody along Park Avenue that asked for this. And it's a grave inconvenience for the people who live here. Aside from that, it's not the first time that the DOT didn't ask residents what they wanted. However, one of the last meetings when we spoke to Colleen,
Hi, Michelle. Sorry, it's Colleen. I'm still here. Go ahead.
Oh, good. You're here. Okay. A few things that a few of us represented to you was that of the terrible traffic that's on Lexington Avenue caused by the existence of the bike lane. And you had advised us that after it was in place for about a year or whatever it is, that you would go back and look at it. I wish you would, because since that bus lane, did I say bike lane? I'm sorry if I did it, bus lane. From the time that bus lane was put in, traffic on Lexington Avenue, it has been impassable because traffic is down to one lane. And of course, you know, the bus lanes are empty when a bus is not actually in it. So are you planning to go back, or have you gone back and looked at Lexington?
I'm sorry, are we talking about Summer Streets, or are we talking about coming
No,
back?
we're
to-
off Summer Street. As I understand, I'm talking about the bus lane because Craig
Sure.
reported
So
on Summer Streets.
Yeah, let's go back to Summer Streets just to, because I know Craig mentioned that and I was
Oh, I'm
muted.
happy to hear you talk about that. Yes.
So Summer Streets, it's first 3 Saturdays in August. It's the 5th, 12th, and 19th. And the route is from Brooklyn Bridge, which is Lafayette Street, up to 125th Street, Michelle. That's all I have for the announcement for Summer Streets. Lexington Avenue bus lanes. When we did come and present, we did say that we would come back after a year and give an update on how that is working out. So I will check with our my colleagues and see when we can come back into the community board. I'm sure it'll be later in the fall. Okay.
Yes, I think it is in over a year. Am I incorrect about that?
I don't believe it is.
I believe it actually went in 2020, but it coincided with the pandemic. So
yes,
trying to do any analysis.
Well, not really, because individuals driving automobiles actually increased during the pandemic, and the deliveries along the street didn't much change. So the truth is, it's 3 years, and you could have gotten information from it during the pandemic. But the bottom line is we're past the pandemic. The emergency has been lifted, and so we can certainly say it's over a year. So I would very much I would like to see you go back and examine that. It's very, very
She
difficult.
said she
traffic
would.
along
So
Lexington.
I said I would.
So I appreciate that.
Would do
And the
that,
other
okay?
thing, Colleen, since you reported on open streets, and since no one could provide me with any information as to who requested it up to 109th Street, I would be interested to knowing who has requested the expansion.
Michelle, not a particular person requested it, multiple people requested it, okay, Michelle? So it didn't come from one person.
But it hasn't been heard at our community board.
Michelle,
you
and
don't bring it to our community board
we
to
don't,
vote.
we don't come to the community board to present on Summer Streets.
Yes,
And I
why not,
said that
is my
multiple times,
question.
Michelle.
Why not?
We don't, because if we come to your community board, we would have to go to all of the community boards in Manhattan. We don't. In the past, when this program initiated, we did come to the community boards, but in moving forward, we have not, Michelle.
No, I understand that, Colleen. I'm just putting this on the record. These summer streets, open streets, they affect communities. And to the extent that the DOT.
Summer streets and open streets are two different programs,
I
Michelle.
know, I just alluded to them as two different programs.
Excuse
But
me, Michelle.
I'm just saying, to the extent that they affect the community, you should come to the community. Thank you.
With all
Thank
due
you.
respect, Michelle,
Done.
you've made these comments before. I think.
Yes, and I'm making it again because it's expanding.
Yeah, but I think there are those who would probably view Summer Streets very differently and are very enthusiastic.
No
about it,
question,
and
but it has never been aired here.
Okay.
I think this is
No
not worth having a
question.
discussion
No
anymore.
question about that.
All right, let's go. Let's move on. Rita?
It's an old question. Have you written a letter to Ed Pinkar regarding the lights on East 91st Street? And have you received a response? This is the only street in New York that has never been, these lights are 50 years old. They have, the bottom half of the street does not have halogen lights, only the top half.
Okay, Rita, who did you mention someone wrote a letter? Who wrote the letter?
Supposedly Chuck was going to write a letter, but I don't know if
I think we had a miscommunication. We were going to write the letter and you said you were going to draft something, but I guess you didn't, so we'll do it. That's fine. This, as long as we understand, we'll do it. Fine. I'll make sure we get it done.
Thanks, Chuck.
Okay, Stephanie Breckler. Stephanie, you have to unmute yourself. Or someone has to unmute you. Is Kevin still here? Unmute Stephanie.
Good.
There you go.
Thank you very much. This is a mixture of old business and new business. We voted against the planters on 79th Street at the bus stop, and they were removed, which was terrific. Now there is an issue with bridges that are being put up along bus stops, rightfully so, because they're being put up in compliance with local law 11. But you cannot get off the bus because you're getting off right in front of the poles that are supporting the bridges. And I don't know what you can do about it. The bus driver stops at the one place that is available for you to get off. But if you get off as you're supposed to in the back of the bus, you can't get off because there is a pole right there and a very narrow passageway for you to then try to walk to where you can get further into the the sidewalk. And I don't know what you can do about it, but it's very dangerous.
Stephanie, I believe you're speaking about the scaffolding that's on the sidewalk.
Yes, the bridges that are being put up in compliance with local.
Local law 11, right, local law 11.
So that's not under DOT's jurisdiction. DOB issues the permits for those. So I'd recommend that maybe Will can, if you have a particular location, maybe Will can reach out to DOB and let them know that this is an issue with dropping off passengers who are using the MTA buses.
I would think that it's Department of Transportation as well.
No, it's not. It's DOB. They issue the permits for those scaffolding.
Well, Kevin, would you please get what's the location, Stephanie? Do you have do you have a particular address?
Specifically, it's 79th Street. It's the bus stop at 79th Street and Madison.
And Madison?
Which on the M79, I take it? Do you know which direction?
No, it's the bus that goes uptown.
Are you
on Madison, you mean?
Yes.
Well, that's so I was just there yesterday. And I see what you mean. So there's a scaffolding basically in the southern half of the block.
Correct. And
okay,
if the bus driver pulls up very close to the curb, which is what they are meant to do, if you get out at the back of the bus,
right,
you're sort of squished between the bus and the scaffolding.
Stephanie, we have it. I think it is a building department issue. They issue the permits for those things, and we ought to have Kevin make a note of that, and we ought to have them send someone out to take a look at that right by the bus stop on that side of the street.
I think if the bus didn't pull up so close to the curb, as they are meant to do, but if they gave you a little more room.
Yeah, it shouldn't be.
That's a tough one because the drivers are trained to pull up to the curb to the fullest extent possible, especially for loading purposes, especially if someone needs to use the ramp in order to access the bus. They have to be along the curbside, and you're right. It's definitely an issue there, and it's problematic, and we need DOB to take action on it.
Yeah, they have to look at that.
Stephanie, what about this? I'm gonna chat you my email, and then we can follow up on this matter tomorrow morning, and then yeah, I'll reach out to DOB and see if anything can get done. Okay.
Yeah, and it's Colleen again. Maybe if you can reach out to MTA to see if the stop can temporarily move a little bit further. You know, so that, you know, passengers who are getting off, they don't have to like encounter the scaffolding.
Yeah, that would probably be more of a driver request because we have that's the block that has the express stops at closer to 80th Street than this pole in front of the Benson for the M1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
And we went through that discussion last month. And speaking of which, since I was there yesterday, I did snap a photo showing that all the planters that had been in front of the bus stop and then were moved in front of the building are still in front of the building, but I suppose that those are still not permitted to be there because they don't have a revocable consent to actually have them in front of the building.
Right.
So they're still in violation.
That's correct, Craig. And if you can send me that photo, if you took a photo,
yes,
I'll have the inspector go out there because they're not supposed to have the planters out there without the revocable.
I will send that right away. I took this photo yesterday.
Perfect.
Okay. So Stephanie, we'll have that looked at. Thank you.
Thank you.
Valerie, I believe, is next.
Thanks. 2 points, Colleen. I want to go very far back in time to a point in time before Craig was the co-chair and Scott was the co-chair. And Department of Transportation told us it was going to inform us of expansion and movement of city bike stations. I just don't see that happening. I walk around the neighborhood and I see the city bike locations moved sometimes, and I see them expanded, and I don't think that the community board is getting that information prior to it happening.
So from what I gather, we haven't made any expansions in CB8 presently. If there is a movement of a city bike station, it's usually done for construction reasons. And we, of course, would notify the community board, letting them know, or letting the
Well, I can
community.
tell you about a situation on First
Yeah.
Avenue and 77th Street, which I know the city bike station was moved because it was moved from Second Avenue to in front of where my sister lived at 400 East 77th Street. And I don't remember anybody coming before the community board and telling us that that's where it was going to be moved.
Okay, I can find out, Valerie, if you send me an email, I can inquire tomorrow and find out if it was moved, why it was moved, and when it would go back to its original location.
But I just want to make a point that
Yeah.
we're not getting pre-notification of the movements unless Chuck and Craig are getting something, which is perfectly, I just don't think we're getting it. The second thing I wanted to ask you about is
I'll remind my colleagues to please let us know about that, okay? And we'll share that.
Appreciate that. And then secondly, where do we stand now? I don't know if it was 21 or 22 when the City Planning Commission amended the zoning resolution to outlaw these additions to the restaurants, these built-on things. There's a brand new, really permanent built on with a relatively new restaurant at 1480 Second Avenue that is bolted into the ground with glass enclosed, with things moving back and forth. I specifically thought that was banned. And this is a brand new one.
It is, these structures are not supposed to be attached to a building. I wish I knew ahead of time, Valerie, before the meeting, because then I would have been able to give you information on this. So in the future, I mean, if this is something that's happening, if you can just shoot me an email, let me know, Valerie, so I can give you a response before the meeting.
Okay, well then I'll send you something, but I just wanted to understand that we're still in this temporary thing, but I think that has to do with sheds in the open road, not ones that are attached to buildings. Is that correct?
So,
Go ahead.
so if you send me the email, if you send me the location, I'll confirm what they're permitted to have.
Okay.
If this is a new structure that decided to build, by all means, that's an investment they took upon themselves as long as they're in compliance. But again, moving forward under the new guidelines, when for the permanent program, it's going to be movable tables and chairs. You're not going to have these big structures in the curb lane or on the sidewalk.
Yeah, but I mean, Craig and Chuck, am I wrong? I thought that was the whole zoning resolution, that the structures that were like outside the old green kitchen on 77th Street were not permitted anymore. Those were grandfathered in, but we're not going to allow any new ones.
Under the new program, if the temporary program, the post-pandemic program is still in place.
But this has nothing to do with the program. This was actually an amendment to the zoning resolution. City planning.
No, yeah, but they passed the law. They didn't pass it. It's up before the council. And what they're saying is, unless you're grandfathered in other words, you had something that was legal, like in 2016 or operated legally between 2016 and unless you have that, you got to get rid of it. And once the permanent program comes in, at some point, I don't know if it's in 2024. I'm not exactly sure. I forgot the date, whether it's January or some date like that.
November 1st, 2024 is the projected.
November 1st. It's got to be gone. It's got to be gone, Valerie. So whatever this thing is, it's going to have to be gone. I don't care.
Okay. All right. All right. I'll send Colleen the information. I don't want to take any more time. Thank you very much.
And I was just going to add quickly that my recollection was that the emergency program or the temporary program that's currently in place basically put a hold on the zoning that would otherwise restrict it. So even if the new zoning was approved, that I think it's still usurped by the temporary program that's in place until that program goes permanent and the zoning has to be adhered to.
Yeah, but it'll be gone. It'll be gone, basically. Rita, Rita Popper, you had her hand up first. Go ahead, Rita. Okay, Rita, we can hear you.
Wait, Rita, you're
Now we
muted.
can't, you muted yourself again, I think, yeah. No, you don't want to talk?
It's a mistake.
Mistake, okay. All right, Michelle?
Yeah, so with reference to the restaurants, if you recall at our last meeting, we said, because Colleen told us just the general framework of this, and when I asked specific questions about rules that will be involved, she said that those were not fully formulated yet. And we, as a committee, said that we would put this on the agenda and write some rules and then submit the rules to DOT.
Not
So
write some rules, lay out some issues that we wanted addressed.
I
writing the rules.
Yeah, I did get a latest resolution from the community board about this, if I'm not mistaken, and I did share it with.
you mean from our board? Yes, and the resolution was to accept it as you presented it with the recognition that the details would be filled in later, basically.
With the exception of the enforcement stuff that we wanted them to look at, make sure they include.
No, Chuck, it was that there were no rules and regulations, and we were going to offer them. For example, when I asked about how many foot clearance, how many, whether or not it could be on a platform.
Craig, read the resolution. I don't want to get into an argument over this because I know what it is.
The rules are not in the resolution.
I didn't say they were. Look, we're going on and on about nothing here. Read the resolution. Could someone maybe put an end to this, Russell?
Yeah, I'm moving to adjourn.
All right, okay. Second, yes, okay. We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Happy summer, everyone.
Right.